Hey, good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another Twitter space with me, Kalu. Was it X Space? Here we're talking money, the economy, and of course, personal finance. We want to talk about the topics of the week and how they affect you personally. So I'll thank you for allowing me to essentially stay with you this Saturday, this Sunday evening. All right, so we have a packed show today. Not just because I think going to be a lot of folks that will want to have a comment. So I'm going to keep my opening monologue very, very brief. This we're talking the supplementary budget, the 2023 supplementary budget. We're going to try to talk about the Naira exchange rate. And if time permits, we'll talk about the Dangote versus the BUA, should we say, issue or what's going on because we think all these three things have a direct effect on your wallet. It's all personal to you. So let's start from the supplementary budget. I mean, we saw the budget come out this week, and of course, there's been heavy criticism of that budget, as there should be. And I mean, why is there criticism of that budget? Number one, that budget. Let's first of all start with the title supplementary budget. When you do a supplementary, that means that you had a real budget, right? But you found out that during the course of the year, either the real budget was insufficient or there was something important that you had to spend money on, or you got more income. So you then do a new budget to then spend and correct those lapses. In this case, it wasn't new income, it was more like we had to spend more money because, of course, expenses had gone up. So if you look at the breakout of the budget and it's broken down by sectoral allocations, security has about 605 billion, and security includes the famous yacht for the Navy. Then we have social protection, 610 billion. Then we have road infrastructure, 400 billion. Then others, 356 billion. There is nothing for health. Absolutely nothing for health. Zero. Zero for health. In a supplementary budget of 220 million people, where less than 60% are youth, they have zero for health. I don't understand that, right? But you have yachts, 5 billion, and education, 5.5 billion for education. Even that is even a loan, student loan. So don't look at the numbers per se. Look at the intent. Someone says, if you show me your budget, I can tell you how you think and what your intentions are. When you look at the budget of a person, of a company, of a nation, you know where their intent is. Pull up the US budget. Where is the money going to? Entitlements, social security, health insurance, security. Look at the UK budget, NHS. Look at the German budget, NHS, public health, public education. You can tell. Look at the Singaporean budget. Look at the Chinese budget, infrastructure, and all that. The Nigerian budget is focused on security, on social protections. That's the number one and number two items that this supplementary budget is basically spending money on. The worst part is that we are borrowing. Everything you see in this budget is going to be funded by borrowing. We are borrowing for social protections. We are borrowing in dollars to give poor, in quotes, people Naira to spend. How do we pay back? I don't like people being poor, but how do we pay back this dollar debt? Why can't we tax in Naira to pay back? But the point again is this. There is no way in hell that you can have a budget where you are spending zero on health, 5 billion on education, then you're spending 610 billion to give poor people money. For what? The poor people, don't they have sick children or children that should go to school? So this is the point I'm making. The intent of the budget itself is completely wrong. Let's not even go to the yacht thing. The yacht one is a misnomer. That's a waste of time. That one should have gone off last year or yesterday. If you are sensible, you know that you shouldn't have a yacht in a budget that is quote unquote austerity themed if you are sensible. But you can keep arguing. Let's go to the second one now, the Naira exchange rate. All right, Olumide is here, so Olumide is going to basically walk us through. We saw last week that the Naira gained. It gained in value. Why is the Naira gaining? Right? People said because of P2P that someone dropped $1 billion in P2P to buy Naira. Of course, when you buy Naira, Naira gains. If you sell dollar falls. So we saw that report last week that someone had put a bid of almost $1 billion to sell dollars and buy Naira. So of course the Naira has responded. We also know that Nigeria is expecting this 10 billion from JP Morgan or so that's going to come in. And my argument has always been that the market moves with expectations. The stock market always moves with forward projections, expectations. If I believe a company will do well tomorrow, the share price goes up today. It doesn't wait till tomorrow. The share price reacts today. Same with the currency rates. If I believe that currency is going to come into Nigeria tomorrow, even without the currency coming in, it moves up. Is that what's happening here? Where will the Naira be? I mean, we're not trying to predict, but where do we think Naira is going to go to? Is the 10 billion from JP Morgan going to be enough? Okay, we are selling our oil and gas forward market, which means that we are consuming tomorrow's revenues today. What happens tomorrow? If we consume the oil and gas sales tomorrow, what happens tomorrow? That's just the question. Alumni is going to walk us through that part of the discussion. Then, of course, Dangote and BUA. Why is this important? These are two private companies. They are quoted. These two companies are the largest quoted largest capitalized quoted companies in Nigeria. So these are the largest companies in Nigeria. Dangote Cement and, of course, BUA. BUA is BUA Foods, BUA Cement. The largest. And these gentlemen are also from the same area. You know, these are the guys that when we say Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa, this is what we mean. These two companies. And there's a public fight. And it's not a public fight over personal issues. It's a public fight over the allocation of subsidies, of influence, how one is using subsidies from the federal government to damage the business of the other. That's why we're talking about it today, not because we care about Dangote or BUA, but because of the allegations that are being made that a business can basically damage our Nigerian business by leaning on immigration, leaning on the CBN, allocating cash amongst themselves. So they're basically undercutting the normal pursuit of business in Africa. How can I succeed if my competitor has a direct line to the CBN, direct line to immigration? He can deport my workers. He can close down my factories. How can I compete? If I cannot compete, how do I create jobs? Can only one company or two companies create all the jobs in Nigeria? It's impossible. That's why in America, there is antitrust regulations, right? To essentially say one company cannot become too big. It doesn't mean even if you are good, you simply cannot become too big, because if you're too big, there's no competition. And it's only competition that allows productivity and efficiency. Only competition. Remember, guys, before Glo came, MTN told everyone that it was impossible to do per second billing. The day Glo came and that Charlie Boy advert with banana, the next day MTN did per second billing. Instantly. There was no more tech issues then. So competition is good. So three topics, guys, is all out there. Olumide, hi, welcome to the floor. Let me have you on mute. And I'll just take you on. Olumide, go ahead and introduce yourself, then we can just take it on, yeah? And of course, you guys, if you want to speak, go ahead and request our
Pascal, interesting conversation. It's been an interesting, the past week has been quite very interesting. In fact, I was looking forward to start Friday, the Naira Friday, but I think the market relatively has been very exciting, because if you look at the NGX, it broke this 70,000 mark index point. That's the highest record. Then the US stock market was rallying so high that Microsoft ended Friday with 6 points gain, Apple 5 points. In fact, the top 10 most valuable companies made 760 billion. So it was a very good week for investors. And I think on the Naira end, just like you rightly said, speculators were taught a lesson, and I think I'll break the numbers down on why it seems Cardoso has some things under his sleeves.
Okay, Olumide, since I have you here, let's go for it, right? What happened? Tell us in plain English what happened. Why did the Naira gain value last week?
Yeah, so I was trying to look at the right thing, because I'm trying to write a story tomorrow on some of the foreign websites, and I was looking at the thing to use. I was like, was it a share of luck or palace coup? I think it was more of a palace coup, and I'll explain. Some weeks back, we've seen that the Naira was oscillating between the 1,250 mark and around the 1,350. But if you look at price action, you could see that it was just consolidating. So there were no drivers to push it to break above the 1,375 resistance level. And that was pretty much because some positivity were coming in the Naira space. First, Nigeria won the $11 billion BNID case in the United Kingdom. Also, news that FX were coming was also in play. The presidential Committee on Tax Reforms highlighted the fact that they were going to put some levy on cash deposits, trying to discourage the black market participants from actively taking hold on the financial system. Those news did not change the market, but what we noticed was that the candles showed oscillation. Now, I hear a lot of disinformation that they say P2P market is insignificant. There is no truth about it because China analysis data highlighted the fact that between July 2022 and June this year, about 56.5 billion exchange hands between Nigerian residents. Nigeria is even the most important market on P2P based on China analysis data. And the former CBN governor also highlighted the fact that we are seeing dollars trickling into the black market, but they are not going through official channels. So that tells you that the P2P had become systemically important. But the problem here is that the P2P is decentralized, so we don't have a central exchange. So a lot of people use different coins. In fact, if you look at the coin market cap, for example, there are thousands of coins, and different estimates to put the number of coins at over 5,000 to 20,000. So it's very difficult for you to use the USDT chart, which is the staple coin most Nigerians use to preserve or hedge against the Naira. The USDT is a staple coin. It's locked with the dollar value. So it's almost at 1-to-1. But when you look at it, it's around 0.999. But now, coming back to Binance. Now, the issue here is that, for example, Binance is the biggest crypto exchange in the world. But a lot of Nigerians don't really use Binance to trade their USDT. A lot of Nigerians, though USDT play a very important role in the market, and Binance being the biggest. So if you look at the chart, a lot of critics are saying that because it has no liquidity, it doesn't match. They've forgotten that if you trade for Carlo, I'm sure you understand the futures market properly, that the most liquid futures market is the crude oil market. And the lighter ones are the agro commodities, where you see cocoa, rice, and usually you see gaps in those markets. But that's what the price that determines the destiny of thousands of companies and billions of citizens around the world. That's what really happens in the USDT. So coming back to the USDT, the staple coin market. Now, the trigger to break that mark I mentioned about the 1,300 above was in there. So there was a candle that formed. It's called a doji. Now, for those price action, doji is a kind of indecision. When you see it in the market, especially at certain parts of the market, it signals that something is about to happen. Now, so I became very concerned, and that was because I knew that it's either the bulls or the bears don't have any direction to break over. So any news could trigger that. Then, there was a tweet that came in that the CBN have started clearing the FX backlogs. Immediately I looked at the chart, I saw that it broke that 1,000. Even before then, it broke the 1,200 resistance. Now, the question here was that I wrote a story 3 days ago that's about a week now. So I wrote a story that the Naira will likely break below the 1,000 at the black market. And my reason was because the body language the Minister of Finance was saying, and the fact that it seems that we had ammunition to get in FX liquidity, though the trust wasn't that much, because you knew what happened with the NNPC 3 billion that didn't manifest. But the build-up was becoming. So when the news about the FX backlog just highlighted, you could just see the candlestick. There was an engulfing pattern. An engulfing pattern is one of the key indicators that tells you that that region is taking a lead. So it's either going down or it's going up, but it's a very strong signal. And let me explain it in simple terms. Now, Carlo, you are tall. So, for example, you are taller than a baby, for example. So, if you stay in front of the baby, the expectation is that your movement, the baby will follow your movement because you are taller, you are stronger, and your brain formation is much more capable. So, that recovery pattern highlighted the fact that we're going to see more downtrend. So, the Naira broke close to the 1,000 mark, and then I was like, if it really tests this, because 1,000 was really a strong psychological level, and it started testing that for like 15 minutes. All of a sudden, it broke down, it came back up, then it stayed below the 1,000. Now the bulls became very aggressive because immediately it broke below the 1,000. They stayed there for 30 minutes, according to price action. Stayed there for 30 minutes, and the panic, I was breaking out the news on Twitter, and the panic kept on amplifying. Though, you see, the total amount of transaction on that platform was about, give or take, less than $2 million. The reality was that the perception caused contagion across markets, and it was so bad that even at airports on Friday, they just broke the news. The Naira was trading as low as $800 to $1. So perception, just like you rightly said, was one of the things that, and we have to give Cardoso the success story on that, because first of all, he wasn't someone that showed that he talks anyhow. Secondly, he did a surprise, because the way the news came out, it didn't come out from official channels. The first place we heard that FX backlog was on Twitter. And it kept on amplifying. Then CZ, the founder of Binance, surprisingly, also highlighted the flag of Nigeria. So speculators were like, was there a CBN relationship with? So my take is that it's either CBN used a third party, or the fact that there was this cohesion that, all the positivity playing with the Naira. Then the US job report, showed that, the US and the US Fed making dovish statement amplified this Naira strength. So the Naira had all for it. So it broke as high as 790 before bouncing. So 800 is now the resistance, the key resistance, and as we speak, it's going back to 1,000. But what the market showed on Friday was that things can change very fast. The liquidity in the black market is very thin, and that was why volatility is very high. The most liquid currency pair is the Euro USD, and that's why you don't see that kind of volatility. But the Naira, in this case, our turnover official and in the private market is not that high. In fact, if you look at it on FMDQ, the average turnover is less than $20 million. So it's something a branch can do. So it means that if the CBN can get its ass working, the speculative price band, that's around the 1,001, 1,003, might not play again this year.
So, last week I tweeted that Naira can be 1 to 1, or that was an exaggeration. The point I was tweeting was that it's possible to bring the Naira to 500 or 400 in a week. I tweeted that out, and I said expectation. And I said if the market believes that the CBN will act, the rate will fall. And people blame speculators, but speculation is the market. We go to the market to speculate. Speculation is legal. It removes inefficiency. Now, what happened from what I hear last week was that somebody had $1 billion and he put it into the market to break the legs of speculators. This had happened before elimination. Remember, when Naira was going from 700 during, I think it was 2022, there was under 1 billion that was dropped in, and people lost lots of money. So they've shot, I believe this is the government of Nigeria, one way or the other. Somebody has shot something across the bow to say, listen, if you are building a position, we can hurt you, because we can release liquidity into the market and you will lose your position. That's what this was all about last week. Which goes to the question that if you take away this defense of $1 billion in Binance, or a defense in the market at will, there is no real underpinning. There is nothing really holding the Naira up. The Naira is held by crude oil exports. Simple. Crude oil exports. Whatever you do, don't mention cocoa, don't mention any other agricultural produce. Look at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics trade report. You will see the contribution of crude oil, cocoa, soybeans to Nigerian dollar earnings. It is nearly 90% crude oil. That's why I said let's not hear diversification again. Focus on that crude oil. If we don't export crude oil, ladies and gentlemen, the Naira will not gain value. Period. Any other thing you do, you would have short-term movements, you will have the destruction of speculators' positions, but the market will always react to the foreign reserves, which are driven by crude oil exports. Now, if NNPC gets its billions from Qatar, gets its money from the Afri-Exim Bank, gets its money from JP Morgan, that is enough ammunition to break the legs of every speculator in Nigeria for at least 1 year. The question then happens, what happens after 1 year? Maybe it's to buy time, which means that the government must focus on the crude oil thieves in Niger Delta. That as the JP Morgan money comes in, we transit to say we want to make sure oil exports are going out. The worst thing, record this thing I'm making right now. The worst thing that will happen to Nigeria is if after 1 year we have gotten these monies in, we don't increase oil output. Nigeria will not only go broke, Nigeria will go bankrupt because we have now sold forward earnings of crude oil and we have nothing to pay for it. So good move to break the speculators, I hear you, but ensure you go to the source of the forex, which is crude oil sales. There's no going left, there's no going right. Lumde, let me have you come back in and we'll let the guys speak, then we'll go to another topic. Lumde, come back in.
Yeah, so I wanted to add some things. Yeah, so definitely what happened on Friday is short and probably going to be on the midterm. We still have structural issues. But you see, what happened on Friday was very key here, and that's what the market is holding on. You see, that 1 billion was not true because if you look at chain analysis data, it came from Binance to Binance Wallet. It was just, it didn't even go through. And you see, the liquidity in our space, it's very unlikely the Apex Bank will use such channel. Now, apart from that again, I want to explain why the speculators are a threat to our market right now. Just like Rati says, speculators make the market efficient. But you see, the reasons why the Apex Bank, global central banks, build up their FX reserves is to also curb speculative tendencies. That's why you see the Bank of China, for example, will tell you that any hedge fund that tries to short their currency or otherwise against the central bank's objective, they will make their life miserable. So the $3.3 trillion they have is to scare speculators away. So yes, speculators have a duty in the market, but speculators are like sharks, and the CBN is the killer whale. Now, what the killer whale does is that, the way God created the ecosystem is that you have more plankton than salmon. You have more salmon than sharks. You have more sharks. You have more sharks than killer whales. But you need a killer whale to control the population of sharks. You need sharks to control the population of salmon. You need salmon to control the population of sardines. You need sardines to control the population of plankton. So the CBN here, what the CBN is trying to do here is that at the same time, stability of the currency is their core mandate. I don't think they are really focused so much on Naira going, but at the same time, they want to be on top of the game. Kalu, between me and you could say that, because we hedge our assets, a lot of speculators lost money. Naira dropped from 1,000. It took 9 days for the Naira to drop from 1,280 to as high as 790 before coming back to 900. A lot of people must have lost money because out of panic, and these are things that really quell speculation. So you could see even the fact that the Naira started losing the value. Those candlesticks highlights the fact that the aggressive bets on speculation has moderated. So they've done a good job on that. Now, you mentioned structural issues. We have strong structural issues, and that will mitigate the long-term outlook of the Naira. But, next year, the US Fed, the Bank of England, the European Union are also reducing interest rates. That will definitely give the Naira some differential movement, because most likely I don't see the CBN cutting interest rates below 15% next year, because they still have interest rate inflation to battle, and at the other side they want to bring in FPIs. So I think while we can look at it on both ends, we need to give credence to the fact that on the short term, speculators were taught a lesson. And
well said. Well said. Well said. I think people are now. Mr. Cardoso has said, There's a new sheriff in town, and if you f with me, I will f with you. That's what he has said, and rightly so. Lucky, go ahead, and Lucky Luciano, go ahead. Let's clear the table a bit. Then we'll come back and talk about the supplementary budget and all that. Go ahead, Sir Lucky.
Hello, guys. How are you doing?
Very well.
Yes. Olumide, well done. Very good. I always look forward to your analysis on currency and everything. And it's the point made by Mr. Kalu is right, because if we do not get our crude oil, do not get it to work, we are just digging a bigger hole for ourselves. And I think that is the first thing we should be working on right now. The NSC and everybody should be working on how to get this crude oil dues out, and also how to get us to pump enough gas, because I think I saw some news where the NLNG was shutting down some trains because they couldn't produce at the best capacity. And I just think we should really work on this as a country. We should work on this so that we don't dig ourselves into a bottomless pit. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Perfect point. I think we have to remember that we have to go back to this point again. It's only, listen to my words, it's only crude oil that can bring this money in. It's not me saying so. Pull up Nigerian Bureau of Statistics trade report and take a look at where Nigeria earns dollars from. It's from crude oil. This cocoa, soybeans, rubber stuff is just noise. Nigerian economy has not been, quote unquote, diversified according to income sources. We only make one revenue source, and that's crude oil and gas. Mr. Satoshi, go for it, sir. Everything Satoshi, go for it.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to thank you for your time, for the time. I have had most of what I wanted to ask answered with Olumide's session, but I wanted him to touch on commercial banks playing in the FX market and holding USDT, or to just put it more broadly, banks in Nigeria and their exposure to USDT, and then also the security exposure that USDT does have, right? Because in his submission he did mention that it is not actually backed 1-for-1, is 0.999. Sorry. 0.99999 something for or so also. And that arbitrage is somewhat being used
profit
to either determine whether or not the US Treasuries that Tether is supposed to be holding, whether they're really holding these treasuries or they are just creating expansionary tokens to dilute the world, basically. So those are basically my two questions. The Nigerian bank's involvement in Tether, and do you think, I know the 1 billion it went from Binance to Binance, but do you think, that's the question, Nigerian bank's involvement with Tether or USDT, and then Tether's, whether or not they're solvent.
I would just say, Olympia's going to answer, but I'll just say, but aren't banks not allowed to even do that? Are Nigerian banks allowed to even do that?
Okay, sorry, go ahead. I thought that was a question.
No, I'm just asking you, are Nigerian banks allowed to even do Tether, USDT? Nigerian banks
but all fintech companies in Nigeria, apparently, their back end, their finality is Tether. It's in Tether or Overtron.
But Nigerian banks are not allowed officially to do that, right? And to do Tether.
I doubt that.
Okay,
Olumide,
go for it.
I doubt.
Good question.
Yeah, so first of all, Nigerian banks are not allowed to deal with crypto assets. We have a regulatory obstacle on that, and the Apex Bank, since they made that order So we don't deal with banks don't deal with crypto asset officially. Now you also need to look at the fact that in the FX market is an $8.5 trillion market in terms of daily trading volume. Nigerian banks are minnows even in Nigeria's FX market. The largest, you look at data from the last 5 years, has always been the likes of Stanbic, RMB, CT, Standard Chartered, and there are many reasons why. Many of these banks deal with multinationals and they have strong assets. Most Nigerian banks are corresponding banks, so you can't expect the type of liquidity exposure a JP or CT will have. So their influence in the market is quite. But one of the things that the banks have done in the past couple of years, and that's why we've seen stellar returns in their 2023 results, is that they've been having high FX exposure on the asset side rather than the liability side. And that's why when there was this revaluation optics, you saw that most of these unrealized gains came off the roof. So it comes back to the fact that, you see, our banks have been spot on. I think we need to give those guys credit because you look at the level of impairment, look at their exposure to Ghana's debt, and look at what they are bringing out with the kind of economy Nigeria is running. You have to wonder how are these guys doing it. So the question here is that they can't really do so much beyond what they are doing right now because the upside down the Nigerian economy has limited. So what is doing wonders for them is their treasury and their FX position, and that's why you see likes of UBA and Zen making 500 billion profit before tax, and you see the case of Nigerian breweries not making profit. So the question is, how do we make our market liquid, like what Carlos said, crude oil? You know, our diasporas, we just put so much pressure on them. The fact that they are bringing 20 billion past people, yes, does not mean that we're always going to get that because a lot of things are changing. Mortgage rates are up, inflation rate is high, and residual income is weaker across those countries too. Then the average Nigerian also understand the P2P market. So those kind of remittance are not giving banks that ammunition. Now, the fintech space is a very controversial space, which I don't want to talk much about. But, you know, the banks are heavily regulated, so they strictly follow the rules. And if they're caught, the CBN penalizes them. But that is why we have a very big FX market.
It's almost like everybody knows that this happened, but nobody wants to admit it publicly. We all know what happens. We all know. I mean, I know how people send money to Nigeria, and it involves USDT, Tether, and I know where they get the money from. Everybody knows, but we are blind. Maybe the CBN governor, Mr. Cardoso, should call in the bankers, calling a few guys that understand this crypto market and say, how can we make this work? How can we do KYC? How can we make sure that money can come in without terrorism, without 419, and then attract that liquidity to the Nigerian market? Because it's already there. We're not acknowledging and then regulate it.
Yes, but the honest truth is that it's not just like CBN. Okay, a few months ago, a British bank contacted me and gave me strict warning that if I make crypto transactions because they knew I had exposure in the crypto market, they will close my account. That was just a mail, and I heard that Barclays had to even upgrade their review that you must have a valid address, whether you're a British citizen or you're not a British citizen. You must have. Banks don't want to hear about Tether or USDT stable coins around the world. That's the reality. A lot of people
that's the risk for them, right?
don't want to hear.
That regulatory
and that's because
risk.
it undermines their power.
You're correct. That remains to me the biggest risk in crypto. Crypto is better than fiat, but the regulatory guys, once the US gets the US coin ready and it's ready to go, they will, in my view, they will close down. They will close it down by regulation. They will make it illegal to hold it, and if you hold it, it will be illegal. You know what that means? It will be illegal. I'm not saying it's not my view. I'm not saying that I agree with them, but they'll make it illegal to hold anything crypto. They'll say it's terrorism. You don't want to be caught near terrorism. Let's get Santiago. I don't know if I got that name right. Santiago Leo. Go ahead, sir. Santiago Leo. Santiago Leo is not ready. Let's get Mr. Martin. Mr. Martin, please go ahead, sir. Mr. Martin? Oh, that's 2 down already. Derry, you've got the floor. Derry Nda. Okay, I'm right. I'll just take off folks that are not right to speak. Olumide, is it me? Can you hear me, Olumide?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. Mr. Noni, please go ahead, sir.
If they're not ready to speak, Olumide, could you piggyback off the whether or not the U.S. Treasuries that Tether is supposed to hold is actually basically what they say, because no one, according to facts, they've never been audited, and there are some speculations that most of the people dealing in Tether might one day just get robbed, since, like Carlo pointed out, they are trying to stop stables. Like in January, there will no longer be the case for BUSD or other stables like PYUSD, PayPal stablecoin. So if they are trying to basically stop that, what does that say about their somewhat incentivization of the government to use their treasuries? Because that's what these stables are for. So if you're saying, okay, we have our US coin, the US obviously wants to sell their treasuries. But there's also speculations that the treasuries are not, like you pointed out, 1-to-1, and then you can't pull out heavy Tether, like maybe from 20 million or 50 million upwards.
Yeah, good question. Olumide, I mean,
Okay.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, very good question. So I think Tita is buying time, but let's also acknowledge the fact that over the years they've done better in their transparency. Sometimes I can't remember the actual year where substantial amount of their funds were backed by risky assets, particularly Chinese corporate bonds. And that created a lot of concern. And there was a time that they were almost visiting the New York Attorney General, one final or the other. But now, like you rightly said, a high amount of their funds are backed by the world's safest debt market, US Treasury bond. That gives them some significant importance. That's the world's largest stable coin. But you see, the Americans are very good at the way of they want their things to fly at the end of the day. So just like Carl said, they came with Fed now. Fed coin. We heard what he said last week, that it's not out of the blue. They're still working on seeing how to bring it up. Once that comes to play, definitely that will be. I think Tita also is also diversifying. There's when we have Tita Gold. They're also looking at other currency, and the new man in the elsewhere, he understands the space very well. So I think it's quite going to be skeptical to say that Tita might not be alive in the next decade, but the kind of bragging rights they have right now, definitely I don't see it taking.
If I may, what will happen if Binance drops all the cryptocurrency coins, adopt the Fed coin as the only coin it would have? What will then happen? Will the CBN then say Binance cannot plug into Nigerian banks because they are doing only Fed coin, which is going to be a legal, quote unquote, legal tender of the US? What do you think? I mean, has that scenario played out in your mind?
Yeah, but I think this has gone beyond the CBN first. You see, that's why when I broke the story then, I was saying that people were just fighting the CBN, and some people called me a CBN contractor, because the reality is that this came from the presidency. And if you look at it, Security and Exchange Commission, some months back, they said Binance Nigeria is illegal. Everybody thought maybe it was just one registered entity. They came back and said, no, this time Binance is off the table. And if you understand Nigeria's regulatory temperament, they are conservative, but before they change it takes a lot of miracle. So the CBN also does not see the advantage their banks will have relating with these guys. And also,
don't they want inflow? Don't they want inflow?
So, despite the fact we consider that there's a working relationship, it's going to be.
This is the point I'm making, right? A crypto guy wants to keep his crypto, whatever it is, right, in a place where he can trade. If Nigerian banks allow him to do that and create maybe Zenith crypto or GT crypto, then he brings in dollars so he can buy and sell that transaction.
That dollar, something like that.
Yeah, that dollar deposit becomes becomes money available for importers because it's a deposit, the same way the deposits in Nigeria is available for loans. So if I'm depositing, that's what I'm asking.
The question right now is, the Naira can do what you are saying.
But Naira is not dollar. I can't import your Naira.
Many banks are concerned to take their business away from them. The reality is that the Naira has very powerful functionality that it can work online and offline. This 400 billion that the federal government wants to use cash transfer, the Naira would have done that. The Naira would have captured, the Naira would have made Nigerians to say, okay, rather than spending your money on clothes, you must buy food. If not, the money will not go through. It has those such powers. So a lot of critics are quite concerned that the surveillance power of the CBN will go out of bounds. But the truth of the matter is that banks don't want that type of power.
Okay, I got you. Let's rotate the room. The farmer boy, we've got you, sir. Go ahead. That farmer boy, you're on the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I just want to talk about the budget, and I don't know why nobody is even paying attention to Federal Ministry of Agriculture project, and all of us are just much interested in the yacht, or what are they calling it. I've gone through that budget, and I can tell you from my little experience that it is nothing but fraud.
That's a strong statement.
Hello?
That's a strong statement, sir. You want to back it up?
Yes. Like, for me, I just need somebody to explain to me what is the meaning of restocking of national strategic reserves with 150 million metric tons of assorted food, commodities, and their associated components.
Oh my God.
That one is one. With 25.5 billion naira. In a country that we are struggling with almost everything, we are talking about 400 billion being shared for the poor. I don't know the poor they want to share the money for. Because it is when you have money you are sharing. We are not even having enough thing. Why are you sharing? If anybody, I was complaining when they were saying they want to do palliative. I said, see, this palliative will only cause more damages. Because if a whole federal government is buying up the little grains we have in the market to still share, it's just means you are taking the little we have in the market, and there will be a lot of scarcity. Now, from this same budget, Federal Ministry of Agri, they plan to spend provision for seedlings, other agricultural input supply. They now share this money in the 06 region, 88 region, 11.7 billion. To be like bonanza in a country that we are not producing a single chemical. Any other herbicide you are seeing in this country is adulterated, fake. They either change the 1 liter plastic of the imported one to refill. We don't have any in this country. Now you plan to spend 11.7 billion in each of these regions, totally about 95.2 billion. If you look at
So what they want to do there is they want to give somebody money to go and buy foodstuff in Nigeria and replenish. But like you're rightly saying, where will they buy this foodstuff from? Are they going to import it, or are they going to buy it locally? There's no local supply. There's no excess local supply waiting to be bought. That I know. So that money is going.
What is assorted food?
Yeah, you can't buy banana and keep it. There's no cold in Nigeria, so you can only buy grain. And then where will they store it? You and I have been talking about silos before offline. So where would you store the excess grain you want to buy for 25 billion? You can't store yam, you can't store cassava, you can't store any perishables, you can't store mango, you can't store tomato. It's only grain you can store. And where are the silos to store this grain?
For a nation that has over 35 million hectares of farmland, does it even make any sense? Let's even assume this is their intention, that we are taking money that we borrowed to import what we can produce. Now, look at another thing here. Dry season farming for additional, like they plan to cultivate or give money to farmers to cultivate 80,000 hectares of farm with 25 billion naira. Kalu, as out of today, they are talking about dry season. The cost implication to cultivate, let's even say 1 hectare of maize in Nigeria, if you have to do it properly, it will cost you nothing less than 500,000, minimum of 600,000. If you multiply 80,000 times 600,000, that is 48 billion already. So how do they want to, like you said, you want to do, like you get to know a lot of things from the budget somebody proposed to you. Maybe they have the intention of spending less. I don't know.
Okay.
Now, my question now is this. My problem now is this. Farmers are Nigerian, like every other Nigerian. If the same federal government is planning to spend 400 billion to dash out to people, this same federal government is still planning to dash out 95.2 billion to people. Why are we dashing? Why are we not looking at the areas of, I don't want to use the word production, like invest in something in return that you can go back to in the next 1 year, see it have impact on people's life, and the continuity will be there for as long as we exist.
So let me give the numbers to those that are listening. In the supplementary budget, agriculture has 200 billion, but we're giving to social protection, which is money to quote unquote poor people, 610 billion. So think of it this way: we have poor people, but the government believes the way you make poor people become rich is to give them cash, not to invest in agriculture. So the poor farmer would get cash, 25,000 a month, but we're not going to invest in agriculture. Agriculture is 200 billion, social protection 610 billion. This is why I say, show me your budget, I'll tell you your intentions. So this is a nonsense thing that they're doing here. Farmer boy, let's get Derry. If Derry, are you able to speak or should I move on? Derry going once, Derry going twice. Let's get modern. We've got modern here. Modern day philosopher. Go ahead, sir. Femi, hold on, please. Modern day philosopher, please go ahead. I'll take Derry off.
Good day, everybody. I'm happy to have you on.
What happened? He went off. He went off. I can't hear you, sir, if you're speaking. Mr. Modern day philosopher, I can't hear you if you're speaking. Tunde. Mr. Tunde Alao, how are you doing, sir? Please go ahead and speak, sir.
Hi, Carlo. Thanks very much for this. I just want to ask. Recently, Central Bank has started these OMO operations to start to mop up currencies at higher rates. Is that going to also have any impact on the forex position? That's just my question.
No, it's been on for a long while. OMO is just open market operations. It's just the way the CBN manages liquidity in the system. So if there's too much cash, the CBN will buy your cash from the banks and give you a certificate. So they take away cash from the bank to fight inflation. So those certificates are like 50 million. It's not for retail, right? So it's always been on. It just means open market operations. It's used to also fight the currency appreciation or eye of the dollar, because if the CBN would say if they take away cash, there's less cash to buy dollars. But it doesn't really work because it's not really, people are holding dollars for other reasons. So it's not the effect only there.
You see, what I'm asking is that within the last week, sorry for the noise, within the last week, they've done it just twice. So I'm looking at it appears they want to use that also as a means to fight it. And I give you good news. Effective rate of 21%.
It's not for retail. Yeah, but it's not for retail. You can't buy it. It's 50 million minimum. You can't walk into a bank and buy almost securities. And even I don't think even at a point Nigerians couldn't even buy it. It's targeted at foreigners. So if a foreigner wants to buy Nigerian bonds, that's how you go in. You can invest in Naira by buying from America those certificates. It's not a retail instrument. It's designed to take away cash from the system. So they increase the interest rate there to force the foreigners to buy Naira. So by buying Naira, they have to sell dollars to the CBN. That's what they are trying to do today. It's not really something you and I can buy. It's targeted at investors, FPI, hot money people. Make sense, sir? All right, Valentine, go ahead, sir. You got the floor. Tunde, thanks so much. Valentine, go ahead.
Yeah, good evening, Carlo. Good evening, everyone.
How you doing?
I think I'm fine. So I think, to be honest, sometimes when I look at Nigeria as a whole, it's just as if our leaders are very selfish and they don't want us to, should I say, succeed or like get to that stage that we can actually question their decisions. This issue of exchange rate has been long for a while, and I know from my own knowledge of elementary economics, we need to be producing something, even if it is not all. But we need to be a producing nation. And when we talk about agriculture, that they are giving 600 billion to in terms of palliative, obviously government realize that they can't just wake up one day and say, okay, farmers should go and plant and we will see the result tomorrow. No, this is a failure of government from God knows when. If assuming we have government that they focus on this agriculture, for instance, we have what do you call it now? People buying these products within Nigeria, and we have people exporting these products, right? So even if there are excess, that's where government come in. They buy this thing and not keep it for future use. But right now, even if they put 1 billion in agriculture, we should realize that we can't even see the result tomorrow, or sometimes even not in 6 months. So this shows that they failed. They failed like totally. So that's why they are not like, okay, let's give them palliative. For what? Okay, if you give everybody palliative, even if it is 20,000, what are you still going to buy with it? You still have to go and import those food that we need to buy with the palliative. So I think right now they should know that there's nothing like, going back to the drawing board. Now we need to start producing. Take for instance, if they fix our electricity, fix this issue of insecurity, and we have good road networks. I'm telling you for a fact, if we have our agricultural industry growing, that's why you see some of our boys, our guys, especially our guys from the east. Those ones that are very industrious. That's why you see somebody will pick up his car or his van, go to the north, get some goods, be it tomatoes or or yam, bring it to Lagos, sell this thing, right? And because with the nature of human beings, we are selfish.
Okay, so Valentine, I got you.
The farmers too will go back to the farm, try to plant, expand its production so that next season is going to sell more. And before you know it, we have excess again, and all this price goes down.
Valentine, I hear you, Valentine. And I think just to give it some context, the social protection is the one that is 610 billion. Agriculture is only 200 billion. So we're doing more. So
that is what I'm saying.
I know.
Agriculture will be 200 billion.
I hear you. And again, the point is, that's not, this fixing the Nigeria thing is a very, very simple topic. Very, very simple. I put it on Twitter. You need two things. Number one, you need to export more crude oil. Number two, you need to defeat the bandits. If you export more crude oil, you get dollars into Nigeria. End of story. If you defeat the bandits, you fight food inflation. So inflation comes down. There is no other, you don't need to go to a retreat and invite all the ministers for a retreat to understand what's wrong with Nigeria. Nigeria has two main problems today: high inflation and low productivity. You want to fix that by earning more dollars and by fighting food inflation. You don't need a seminar to understand that power supply needs to improve in Nigeria. So all this long talk, strategy documents, we're in an emergency, we're drowning. Right now, food inflation is 25%. Normal inflation, core inflation is almost 25%. How do you invest in a nation with double-digit inflation? How do you invest in a nation that does not have a source of foreign exchange revenues? Because crude oil revenues are down. These are the questions. You don't. We're moving too slow. At the point we're moving too slow. We are doing as if we are in McKinsey class. We are moving simply too slow.
But for how long are we going to rely on forex from the sales of crude oil?
But for now, Valentine, the problem is now, we always say this diversification. What I'm telling you now is that today, what we need today, right now, is crude oil revenue. You can't plant cocoa and harvest it tomorrow, but you can export crude oil today because it's just the pipes that have been attacked. Once you secure the pipes,
the food we are going to buy with the crude oil stock, where is it going to come from?
What are you talking about?
Which means at the end of the day, we'll still send this crude oil estate back to the foreign
Valentine, you are going far. Valentine, you are going too far. What I'm telling you is that in Nigeria was doing 2.2 million barrels a day in 2018. Today we're doing 1.3, 1.5 million barrels a day. I am saying simply control the pipelines and export. Go back to your 2.2 million barrels. Then you can talk about diversification.
Yes,
we are not right now. We're at 1.5, 1.3 million barrels per day. We used to be on 2.2, 2.3. So go back there. Then you can start talking about diversification into cowpea and ginger. Right now, we need dollars. We need dollars in our hand, nothing else.
Well, Kali, it's not you and me that is doing those pipeline stuff. So these guys know themselves. That's why I'm telling you. I don't want before I start my conversation. I said it earlier. They are selfish. They know themselves now. So can I go and bust pipeline and be selling crude oil?
How hard is this? How hard is it to fix? Okay, Barrington, I hear you. How hard is it? Is it rocket science to fix this stuff? Cliff, go for it, Cliff. Let me get Cliff. Cliff has dropped. Cliff, you've got the floor. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead, sir.
All right, Carlos, so I'm just wondering why people, sometimes when we do this analysis...
You got a lot of background noise, sir, but go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Sometimes when we do this analysis, there seems to be, we're so upbeat. But from my own perspective, sometimes it's also good to have some kind of retrospectives and try to introspect on some of the things that have gone wrong in the past. It helps us to really put things in proper perspective. For example, we're talking about inflation of 25%, and we know that core inflation is a major part of that, the inflation figures. And we spent about, I don't know the right figures, whether it's 900 billion in the intervention funds in the agri sector in Emefiele's tenure. Why hasn't that translated to, improvement? I know there are external shocks, yes, but we are not doing well. So I believe that some of these sessions that we have, it would be nice to actually draw lessons from the things that actually have gone wrong in the past that are still not fixed, because no matter how we budget or how we put things in place, if we don't address the underlying factors, the root causes, we will just keep throwing in more money into black holes and we're not getting anywhere. I think that, having some discussions around what went wrong in the last regime, where they dished out so much money to farmers and then we didn't, they were not producing enough food to even feed ourselves in Nigeria, not to talk of exporting. Then we can start having conversations on why we need to provide additional budget to make sure that we improve upon where we're coming from. We've not mechanized our farming. We're still at the rudimentary stages. How do we intend to now come to that point where we want to use agriculture to grow the economy?
Cliff, Emefiele was doing Soviet-style central planning, where the CBN will sit in Abuja and allocate funds to sectors it believes needed funds. The idea...
Hello, Carlo, did you hear me?
I heard you correctly. I heard you perfectly, Sir Cliff. I think I heard you. Good point. And I didn't make the point that Emefiele's reform failed because the central bank was doing Soviet-style central planning, where Emefiele sat in Abuja and disbursed funds he and his board believed the economy needed to grow. So the disbursement and the decision making takes place in Abuja. There was a fund or a bank product, I think it was called, I forget the name, so I don't want to mess it up. In this case, you go to your bank, the bank will do a normal loan, but the CBN will guarantee that loan that the banks are issuing to the agricultural sector. Those loans worked pretty well because the bank will do the due diligence first of all. But when the bank lends that money out, the bank refinances that loan via the CBN. That was how it was done in the past. MFLN took over and did direct credit, anchor borrower scheme, where they were giving farmers direct credit. And once you do that, most of the farmers said they thought the money was political favors to them. They refused to pay back. That's what they are saying on the papers, that they assumed the money was like their largest because they voted in the political party. So they didn't want to pay back. Once you get involved like that, it's going to fail. It's just the issue. It has to be bottom up. It has to be private sector driven. It has to be a guarantee, not giving people cash. Someone tweeted me one time. I don't want to share that because it's a personal tweet. Someone told me, sir, I got 5 million naira to start a poultry from CBN. I want to buy shares. Which share should I buy? I got that tweet in my DM. Someone sent me a tweet. He got 5 million to do a poultry in the state, but was asking me what shares he should buy with the 5 million. So you can't do that. But if you do a guarantee and that guy has got a poultry, he has to go to a bank. The bank will do a normal risk on that guy and say, yes, you are qualified to have a poultry. Then they give him a loan. Then the bank holds that loan on their books, but they can refinance that loan. That's just my way of answering. But you can't have the government giving away cash to citizens. It's going to always fail. In America, in Nigeria, anywhere you try it, it will fail. Government money is nobody's money. In America, or in Nigeria, or anywhere. So you have to involve the private sector really in this. That's just my take, bro. Let's get Martin. Cliff, thank you much for that. Martin, go ahead, sir. Martin, you've got the floor. Second time going. Martin, Femi, you've got the floor. Femi Shaba, how are you doing, sir? Let me take Martin off. Femi Shaba, go ahead.
Hi, Carlo, how are you doing?
I'm very well, sir. Audio's kind of low. If you can raise the audio up, I would love it, sir. Thank you so much.
Sorry?
If you can raise your audio up a bit, I would love it, sir. Thank you so much.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Go ahead, sir.
Is it better?
Not better, but go ahead.
1 second.
Okay.
Okay, can I speak?
Martin, please go ahead. Let me get Femi, sort your audio out. Martin, go ahead, sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thanks, Carlo, for the opportunity. So, I read something that Olumide was tweeting about the Naira outlet. I'm actually talking about the exchange rate. He said that the Naira outlet is very bright, considering that the US Fed, the Bank of Japan, and the Bank of England is going to be cutting rate next year. So I think there's something we're not talking about that is affecting the exchange rates majorly. I think we have to consider also the inflation differential. Now, the inflation differential between Nigeria and the US is greater than 20%. I'm of the opinion that as far as the inflation differential is so much wide, I believe the Nigerian Naira will continue to depreciate against the US dollar by the inflation differential. But we're not actually talking about this. Even most financial analysts are not talking about this.
I talk about
my
it.
question is
I
how I don't want to only to explain that. Then also I want to consider the budget actually. Okay, we are saying that the outlook of the Naira is very bright, and we are not looking at the federal government. They're not cutting the cost of governance. They are still inflating our budget.
True.
And I believe that should also exacerbate inflation.
True.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, good point. I'm just going to talk, but let me just say this, right? I think just for a follow what you're saying. What you're saying is this: if inflation in Naira is 25, inflation today is, let me look at the figure for inflation is 26%. If Naira has 26% inflation and dollar has got 3.9% inflation, what I will do, this is me, if I earn my salary in Naira and I'm not going to spend my salary in Naira tomorrow, I would buy dollar and hold. Then whenever I want to spend, I change my dollar to Naira and spend. And that's what many Nigerians are doing. They don't need the dollar to import. But because the Naira is no longer a store of value, many Nigerians that don't import are holding dollar to store the value before they do the means of exchange. So the number of people that normally would not hold dollar has increased. So as long as inflation is up, Naira will not be held by the majority of Nigerians. That's what Martin is saying. And as long as we have that gap keep widening, then the demand for dollar will keep going up and up. Olumide is also asking you a question. Please go ahead, sir.
Very good
question. It made a lot of sense and it's very correct. But you see, I think he missed the other picture. There are three things working for the Naira that the Naira are not taking advantage of: the stock market, and the fact that when the US Fed, energy prices are likely also going to stay relatively high. So the differential definitely will narrow, and there are projections that Nigeria's inflationary rates would at some point peak at its maximum in Q1 2024. So those are considerations I put into. But when you're tweeting, you can only tweet it 160 words. Now look at the stock market, for example. It has a value of about $39 billion. Now, if you look at the fact that these stocks, many stocks are doing very well, and despite the devaluation and inflationary concern, about 43 stocks have outperformed the US dollar in the black market. So it's already an attractive spot for FPIs, but the FX market has dampened that advantage. So the expectation is that when the Apex Bank clears a substantial amount of the FX backlogs, at the same time, you see that the US Fed, Bank of England, and ECB become more dovish. The fixed income space might be where the differential will come to play, yes, but the equity market is begging for investment, and that was the side I was looking at. And also, you also need to look at our market size. You see, the problem in Nigeria is not the fund of just funds getting in. The problem is the amount of funds taken. Now, if I did the data, I was trying to break it down. The amount of funds the National Assembly spent on cars this year alone is roughly $150 million. Now, if you put that on FMDQ, you get 2-day trading board. Now, if you add the executive and judiciary, you've gotten 1 week FX. So, apart from the fact that we're also concerned about FX coming in, the leaks are the major problem. We spend money on pilgrimage. Our elites spend money on so many luxurious needed services that suppress the FX liquidity mechanism in that market, and that's another concern. But even after that, the projection is all things equal. When these barriers are lifted, definitely we'll see FPIs in our market. Don't forget that from January to this month, the FPI participation was ratio 9-1. It means for every 10 investors in the Nigerian stock market, 9 were local investors, 1 was FPI. And in the month of September, they sold $10 million worth of Nigerian stocks, despite the fact that Nigerian stocks are now at record high.
Interesting take. I mean, the long and short is that I also say this, right? How does inflation come down if the price of rice does not come down? Maybe you guys are talking just the monetary inflation, but if price of rice does not come down, how will inflation come down? I think I saw Kevin say that as well, but how will it come down if food is still expensive?
It won't come down. You just said it, because major CPI is food, and monetary. That's why the monetary tool that can change our inflation perspective. Despite a lot of people saying because our money supply is quite high, I don't buy that. I think it's more fiscal issues, and the problem is getting worse. You see, the number of farmers that died this year alone. It's not something to say. And another interesting thing I discovered is that most of the infrastructure we are building, that we call infrastructure, are not supporting agricultural. Why is Ogun State, Ekiti, or why are they building cargo airports? The amount of funds they spend on cargo airports, if they had this cohesion, this Odua, what the cabal that they belong to, they should have looked at how to centralize the cargo railway network, just like what the Americans do when they take oil from different ports or commerce to the mid-western states, because rail is much more efficient in terms of cargo track than air. And the honest truth is that a state like Ekiti that has an idea of 17 billion and in 2022 is building an airport of 17 billion that is not yet completed. The question is, where is this fiscal? This is the problems we have in our country. We have fiscal indiscipline, we have economic incompetence in terms of allocating resources. We have not talked about education, we've not talked about health, we've not talked about security, we're talking about cargo airports.
I think I don't know if you on Twitter. I've been going back and forth this morning. Well, I did a tweet yesterday night. I woke up this morning with tons of mention about an airport in Ogun State. People are going on, hey Kalu, why are you against the airport? You supported the airport in Anambra. You're against the airport in Ogun. No, and I try to clarify over and over and over, but the same things keep coming up. The point guys are making is this: if an airport is viable, let me even be specific to you. If airports were viable, Dangote will have an airport in every state capital. But airports in Nigeria are not viable. Do you know why? Nigerians are poor. They can't afford to travel by air. They can afford rail, they can afford road, they can't afford air. If you like, say whatever you want to say. It is the truth. A few of you can afford to fly because you have the means. But this is Nigeria where how many percent of them have less than 500,000 in their bank account as per 99% have less than 500,000. What is the plane? How much is the plane ticket from Lagos to Abuja? How much is the plane ticket Lagos to Abuja? That's return. So you are saying that the man that has less than 500,000 will now fly Lagos to Abuja? Of course not. We take night bus, we take train. That's how it's done. So when a state government, a state in Nigeria, they get the bulk of their funds from FARC. So we sell oil, states get money. When you as a governor get that money, your job is to convert that money as a stimulus, as a stimulant. You say, okay, I'm going to go and drop my money as a seed capital in many places so that seed capital can grow. Your job is not to go and start to build even the roads that we are building, that we think we're doing a good thing. You can't build enough roads with FARC money. Even IGR money. That's why Lagos is struggling in terms of fiscal resources. They are trying to build infrastructure in Lagos with their IGR and FARC. They will suffer and they will struggle. The same way New York. Go to New York. They have potholes in New York as well because no state resources can build all your resources unless you are Dubai or Singapore or Brunei. So what the state should do is to use their FARC and IGRs as stimulative. Look at the port in Lagos that was built, the Lagos Deep Sea Port. Who built it? Foreign investors. What did Lagos do? Lagos put in 20% contribution equity as land. They put it there. Is the port not up to date? Did Lagos have to put 100%? No. But Lagos has a port there. That's the model that you should follow. You take your small FARC, small IGR as a stimulant and attract the private sector to come in and build. So you don't tie your capital in one project. Ogun State is next to Lagos. This airport, if the state gave tax incentive, if you come and build this airport, there will be no tax for 100 years. No FARC, no payee, nothing for the next 100 years. No local government will tax you, no state will tax you. We will clear the goods for you. We will do the whole regulatory processing for you for this airport in Ogun State. I am telling you that a Chinese investor or even a Nigerian investor will come and build an airport. Even if it's to enjoy, he will put one small manufacturing plant next to the airport so that he gets 0% FARC, 0% payee taxes because he is in Ogun State next to this airport. That's how you do it. The issue is not airports. The issue is the state funding of airports in Anambra, in Ebonyi, in Jigawa, all over the place. You can't take your FARC and be building infrastructure. Even airports and roads, you will not have enough. That's why there are abandoned projects all over the place because your FARC cannot do it. You can't pay salary and build capex. No. Bring in the private sector, partner with them, just like Lagos did the Deep Sea Port, and have projects. Ignore the governor built. It is still a governor's project. Would you say Lagos did not build Deep Sea Port? But we keep on going back and forth. They start saying tribal things. You are wasting your time. In the end, the states that are serious will move ahead. The states that are not serious will stay where they are, chasing airports up and down. Ogun State. I was in Ogun State years ago when Governor Benga Daniel showed us a video of 3 airports that are going to be built. I was there physically with him. Benga Daniel, video of an airport that was going to be built years ago when I was a governor. I watched that video. we are still talking Ogun State Airport today. I rest my case. Ikechukwu, go ahead, sir.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, I'm just going to pick up from where you stopped. You've made a very valid point in terms of how states can fund projects, in terms of how they can approach it. However, I still think there's a fundamental problem in terms of institutional capacity to be able to put such PPP arrangements together. Lagos State has, for me, amongst the states, has the sort of most sophisticated PPP office that are peopled by people who have had some experience with structuring some level of project financing. However, they've not always had complete 100% success, especially looking at the experience with the Lekki toll gates and all for that have not been fully realized. However, also to complement them in terms of how they're able to achieve the Lagos Deep Seaport and so many other PPP projects. But you don't find the same setup in so many other states. Some of them are just having their investment promotion agency, maybe just Kaduna, that has something that's standard and that can sort of enter into critical arrangements for PPP.
Also Gombe. Also Gombe. Gombe in Nigeria has got the highest ease of doing business in Nigeria. Gombe State. They are they've done really their homework. They have all the laws, but nobody goes there because everyone. You see, Lagos has a huge advantage. You say they are PPP office, but they have a huge infrastructure advantage. So if I was a foreigner coming to Nigeria to set up a project, I will go to Lagos because it's easier to do business because there's already infrastructure. Lagos is not like America where I can go to underdeveloped Alabama and set up a Mercedes factory in Alabama. You see, in Alabama, there are still roads, there's still telephone, there's still security, there's still the America, it's still on America in Alabama. But if you go to Gombe to set up a vehicle assembly plant in Gombe, you have to bring your own water, your own power. It's not the fault of Gombe State government. It's just the way Nigeria has been. That Lagos has got almost 4 ports. Apapa, Tinkan, almost 4. And they're building more. They're building more. Lagos has an airport in Ikeja. They want to build Lekki. They want to build one in Badagry. So they have enjoyed...
So that brings to mind what they should be doing, other states should be doing with their FAC. Because the argument now is that you said that they cannot build everything out with their FAC.
Correct.
So it gives a pointer as to what they need to do with the other states need to now do with their FAC. So maybe they should be looking at, putting water close to their industrial park, putting all the other
states should simply, what I expect the other southwest states to do is to build a rail line from Lagos to their state capitals. This way, you export Lagos to your state. So if I'm a foreign investor and I go to Ogun or Ekiti, I can put my factory in Ekiti, cheaper cost of labor, cheaper standard of living, but I can export through the same Lagos port, through railways. So you use the Lagos infrastructure the same way the tri-states use New York or California to export goods. So Jersey, New York, you have to partner with the attributes of Lagos. You can't compete with Lagos. And you have got to also push that states should be allowed to determine FAC and payee rates so that you can go to your state and do 1% payee. Lagos should do 5% payee, but you have to undercut Lagos by offering cheaper cost of doing business. Ogun State Agbara is technically in Lagos State. We'll go to Agbara. How have they used Agbara efficiently to attract business from Lagos? Agbara is literally in Lagos, literally.
If they had a PPP office or a Google State Investment Promotion Agency that has this sort of gravitas that Kaduna has, look at Kaduna being able to attract a steel company down to the north. I didn't expect that, but they must have made a very good case for Mahindra. They also have Mahindra trying to assemble tractors and then Pidgeot. They've made a case in terms of, okay, what's your return on investment? They've made a case in terms of provision of contributing equity. So I expect other states as well. Institutional arrangements, capacity is also relevant.
Good point.
Lamata can help you. If you want to do rail projects in Lagos, they'll direct you to Lamata.
Yeah.
There's enough skill in Lamata to
point.
be able to do. They already have the baseline plan. But when you go to Ogun State, who do you liaise with? When you want to build
they have that office. Gateway, they have that office. Ogun State has that office. Ogun State is actually, they are good. Let me give you a good example just to close out the case and bring somebody else in. When GE came to Nigeria, where did they go to? Calabar. Why did they go to Calabar? They were seeing what those guys were doing with Tinapa, how they were opening up the place. They wanted a brand new place to build out their railway. They went to Calabar. I'm not sure if Calabar had just stayed quiet and said we're going to be this small tourist place, they would have gone there. They went to Calabar. So, I mean, you have to think like the foreigners and say, why will a foreigner come to my state? And it's possible they can come to your state. Lots of people are looking for a place to go that is safe, that is cheap. But they also want the infrastructure to perform. No matter how good Gombe's laws are, and their laws are very good and the number one state for ease of doing business, there's no railway from Gombe to the port in Lagos or the port in Port Harcourt or the port in Warri. Nobody's going to go there and do any heavy industry there. So this is the problem with Nigeria. And until you start to open up Nigeria, I always talk that there is no east to west railway in Nigeria since Nigeria was created. This is before Nigeria was created as a republic. Since the white people came, the white guys came and built north to south railway to export the produce from the north through the southern ports. Since 1960, the Nigerians cannot think and build lateral railways to take trade from the west of Nigeria to the east of Nigeria to open up the economy and to create wealth. None. There is no railway from the east to the west. Till today, we haven't built Lagos to Ibadan expressway, the most important expressway in all of Nigeria, is yet to be completed. Since 1999, PDP has failed, APC has failed to build that railway, that road from Lagos to Ibadan, the most important road in Nigeria. Do you think? No, it does, but it's not completed. Whether it's like 9.999, it's not completed. Do you think Rwanda would take from 1999 to build that road? Rwanda or Ghana or China? This is our problem. But if you say it now, somebody's going to say, go to Anambra, let them build Anambra to Imo Road before you talk about it. Nonsense.
That brings us back to the funding mechanism.
Patrick, let's just. Nigeria sometimes gives you HBP because you come with people are just talking nonsense. You want to have a discussion about how to move. Look at what China did. You say this is China's model. You build things in the clusters in the rural areas. You then transit from clusters to this. They'll tell you, go to Abia. Tell Abia to do it first. No, just my God, Femi. Let me get Femi back in here. Femi, let me get Femi. Ugos, hold on. Femi was trying to build. Femi, it's your audio backup. You can go thanks a lot. Femi, it's your audio backup.
Yeah.
Hey, I can hear you better now. Go ahead, sir. You can go thanks a lot.
Using my AirPods, so that's probably why the audio was quite bad. Yeah, it's funny. Like I was really looking forward to this space to see what people had to say, especially more towards the Dangote and BUA discussion. But midway through all the comments that people are making and all the ideas and suggestions and whatnot, it just makes one wonder. It's simple. It's very simple. I studied architecture, so I build. And one of the first things that my tutors, I studied architecture. Right now I'm more into finance and real estate. One of the things that my tutors, first year, I think it was my foundational year, said to me that has lasted with me all throughout is, whenever you want to create a design, whenever you want to design something, the first thing you have to think about is, what is the event that you are creating? It is that event that makes great architecture, not the architecture itself. And I literally have applied that through everything I do, which is whatever you want to do. First of all, create an event. What is that event? Create a buzz. You just pointed out 2 seconds ago, with regards to decentralizing pay, okay, 5% in Lagos, okay, we were even giving you complete, we're doing zero on that, come to our state, give you all sorts of tax breaks and whatnot. I saw on Twitter today, it was trending, Lagos State charging 5% or so thereabouts, consumption tax, and people brought up the question, so if you're being charged VAT, what exactly is VAT? Is VAT not already a consumption tax? And hasn't that gone through the chain as that product is coming, to the consumer? Then I saw this video again of, I don't know, if you have kids, you probably heard of Mr. Beast. Carlo, have you heard of Mr. Beast?
Yes, I. Yes, I have. Isn't that I think he's the largest guy with a following on social media, something like that. I don't know what he does, but people like him.
So this little kid, well, no, not this little kid, this young chap, this young lad from the US has come to Africa and he has built 100 wells, in 100 villages or 100 wells in certain villages, especially in East Africa. And you ask yourself this question. He actually even built a bridge in the process as well. And you ask yourself this question. This guy comes to America. This guy is just a YouTuber. Let's call him a YouTuber, What does a YouTuber do? He comes to Africa, he builds 100 wells. And people, they're having welcoming parties for him, the kids and, the usual African welcome thing where they dance for you and do all of that stuff for you. And you think about the bridge that other, was a Kenyan politician built that on the day of inauguration, the bridge collapsed as they were cutting the ribbon. In fact, shortly after he cut the ribbon, the bridge collapsed. And this is the mentality that we have been working with in Africa. We are strictly an extractive group of people, as in the colonial mindset has never left us. I don't blame the colonial people because other parts of the world have been colonized and they've moved on from there. I mean, Rwanda is doing, one of the best jobs moving away, not only from post-colonization, but also post-Civil War as well. And they had quite a brutal civil war that you can only, the closest, or rather, how do I put it now? It was so bad, it was almost as bad as the Biafran war, the civil war that we had here in Nigeria. And they're moving away from that. And then you look at us here in Nigeria, all the things that you need to put in place are there. Nigeria is a poor country. Stop thinking. Look, it was like a business partner I had a few years ago, and I told him, I said, look, 100% of zero is zero. 10% of 100 is 10. I'd rather take 10% and walk away with it. Most of these guys play a zero-sum game, the politicians. All they care about is they build a house, they build a massive house, they oppress people, then they go to the US and be walking their dogs. They are tiny little cute chihuahuas, on the beautifully paved roads that were built there with taxpayers' money so that they can invite investors to come into their country. Right now, I think it was Victor Asemota that said something that day. Right now, funny enough, in Nigeria, we don't need to be manufacturing or producing anything right now. That is not where it's at. Other parts of the world have put in the energy in the last 30 years and streamlined their businesses for production and manufacturing. We need to focus on what we have. What we have is oil. Let's start from there. Use the oil to offset all the nonsense that has been done. Use that money to now invite investors and say, hey, come in. We've got this on offer. As the president, clip someone to this guy that reports directly to the president. Not this nonsense of, oh yes, we're open for investment. Then an investor comes. I've seen this time and time again. I've actually been a victim of this. You sit down with the president tells you, oh, fantastic, yeah, great idea, let's do this. The moment you take 2 steps to decide, the person you're talking to is like, what's in it for me?
Yeah, I mean, those are issues that we are unfortunate. I mean, like I said again, I was surprised many people are not really understanding this Dangote thing that we put up. I mean, I only put up things that are impactful. Look at it this way. Any fund that buys Nigerian stocks, any fund whatsoever that buys Nigerian stocks, is going to have Dangote and BUA, any stock. And Alumde, I think, posted, and we all know that there's a particular stock, is it MSCI? MSCI creates funds. They have the MSCI Nigerian ETF. So if you want to buy Nigerian stocks, you buy that MSCI. That's my way of buying Nigerian stocks abroad. I use those guys because they give them before they give Nigerians, right? Now, I heard they want to take Nigeria off, or they want to take that Nigerian ETF away from the frontier market to some other thing. In essence, they want to cut us off, more or less. It's because of things like this. It's things like this. If Dangote, it's like Microsoft and Apple can fight over patent, over trade, over market share, but you won't hear Microsoft saying that Apple went and told Trump, and then Trump arrested all the workers in one factory in South Carolina.
Exactly.
You won't hear that. You can hear that they are fighting over.
Exactly.
But do you know what these guys? Read what BUA is accusing Dangote of doing. Read what Dangote is accusing BUA of doing. Then go. Let me give you my personal story about Dangote. When I was a young guy, I was listening to the budget by Mr. Anthony Ani. Anthony Ani was given the budget. Anthony Ani said that on the news that rice import is banned in Nigeria. I was watching TV, NTA, watching him. When he said it, then during the budget, one guy came to Mr. Anthony and gave me a piece of paper. He read the piece of paper, he put it down. He kept on talking and he says, I want to correct that rice is not banned in Nigeria. The whole hall was there laughing. So this was a budget being read by the Minister of Finance, Anthony Ani. He banned rice in the budget speech. They gave him paper, live TV. I'm sure someone can Google this and find it. He announced on TV, rice is now unbanned on TV. People there laughing. So imagine the projection they had made that rice has been banned. Then it was unbanned on live TV. And later in life, I heard that it was Mr. D that called in and got that done. Live story. This is what people look at and say, this country might have potentials, but is it worth us putting serious dollars into this country? Let's go to Togo, Benin, set up a factory there and just sell to them. So they buy from us, but we're not involved in their policy. This was happening in Nigeria. So people are moving out of the country to set up the factories outside Nigeria, but they're importing their products to Nigeria because Nigerians can't buy. And so we're not getting the FDI jobs and the transfer of tech. It's going to Ghana, to Togo, and we should be worried about this. That our two largest companies that are saying that they are basically gotten there because of who they know and not what they could do. That's what they're saying. William, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add another perspective. Yes, I understand the bad optics it plays on the economy, but I think these billionaires, they've hedged their bet properly, and I think we should not be too worried, and I'll tell you why. So first of all, if you look at Dangote's portfolio, it's heavily concentrated. In fact, at some point, he owns about 90% of Dangote cement. And if you weigh that on the NGX, the market is worth $39 billion. He alone, his companies are worth close to 10. If you add Dangote sugar, you add other indirect holdings. So he plays a systemic role in the Nigerian economy. This is somebody that is worth $16.4 billion based on Bloomberg data on Friday. And he has accelerated his exposure in West Africa. BUA is another guy too that also happens to be share similar traits with Dangote. They're born in the same states. They are the only billionaires on Bloomberg list, top 500 richest people in the world, and they also control significant market share. In fact, if you add Dangote cement and BUA in cement, you talk about food, they control most of the market share. But the problem right now is that, based on, this kind of, the reason why it would not really shake
how do they control the market share?
They control the stock market.
That's the question, right?
But secondly, I think it's a fight for power and influence. And you need to understand that we don't, for the first time, we don't really say who President Tinubu is aligned with. If you look at right from President Obasanjo to Jonathan, there has always been Dangote. But I think it's shifting now. It looks like the President Tinubu is leaning towards the BUA guy. And definitely that will cause some ruffles in the system. Mm-hmm. But my final optics is that I think this will temper down. I think the president will get involved. And I don't think and I heard that there's a report that indicted, which has not been authorized. Which has not been official. That maybe that's really what is really causing so much drama. But we don't. The reality is that I don't think the president will want to create any enemies with this.
We don't need a report. We know Dangote has been favored, but I in a way I don't blame Dangote. For me, he has been favored because the narrative is that what he's doing is helping Nigeria. That's the narrative. That let's give him dollars to set up a refinery locally so we don't import PMS. Let's give him dollars to set up a fertilizer plant so we don't import fertilizer. Let's give him dollars to set up a cement plant so we don't import cement. But I have a narrative to say that if we have the largest cement factory in Africa, why is Nigerian cement still expensive? If I have the largest fertilizer plant in Africa, why is Nigerian fertilizer still expensive? The same thing with his PMS. Why is it that we substitute foreign imports for local production? The local production is more expensive. This is my take, and I make this point. People go onto Twitter and say, "Oh, imports are bad." Imports are never bad. Net export is what economists look for. Net export. If we are importing cement and homes are 500,000 and not 5 million, please explain to me how that is bad. So if Dangote cannot compete with cheaper imports of cement, then why give him the monopoly? If the local guys cannot compete with cheaper imports, then open the market up. Don't tell me we're producing cement locally when cement in Nigeria is 10 or 5 times the cost of imports. That's just my own take on this matter. We have to start to call this thing the way it is. Compete with imports, not with your neighbor in Nigeria. If imports are cheaper, let it come in.
Carlos, before I forget some things, I'm getting younger. Before I forget some things, first things first, someone did the calculation. Landing cost of cement in Nigeria is between 3,000 to 3,500 naira. Imagine if the government remove all duties and taxes on cement because they want to kickstart the economy. Yeah. They want people to start building. They want people to start, because that's where the money is in brick and mortar. Look, we keep on deceiving ourselves thinking that crypto, this. Wealth is built on something. It's not built in thin air. The crypto that they are looking at, people are only able to invest in crypto. Why? Because they have a house already, right, in San Francisco. They're worth $5 million. They have, all the amenities that they need, parks and what have you. That is when they begin to look into thin air to say, okay, let's create crypto, and see what happens on that space, right? People misunderstand that as a matter of wealth, just the Land Use Act alone impoverishes Africans. If we can even just remove that one thing, that one hurdle, do you know how many foreign investors will come into this country? Even, funny enough, see Zambia. Zambia has similar Land Act use as we do, 99 years and all of that. But they have a lot of foreigners still coming in there because they have some certain windows they allow. Okay, if you're coming in as a foreigner, you want to open a safari, we'll give you some concessions, things like that, which we do not even have in Nigeria at all. I want to say on this Dangote issue, I think all of us need to be guided, putting him up as a poster child of Africa. First things first, Dangote is not a person. He is the embodiment of Nigeria, of what everybody sees in Nigeria. And Dangote is not a cement manufacturing company. Dangote is a logistics company. That's the mistake people make. He is a logistics company by every standard you look at it. If not, if he was really a cement company, do you know how this guy would be fighting for all sorts of tax cuts so that he can bring his prices down and flood the market with cement rather than taking up the price every five market days? There's so many things fundamentally wrong with Nigeria, and it actually starts with this whole thing of creating excuses for people. We need to look at people and say, okay, this is who you are, this is what you're doing, right? What are you bringing? bringing to the table. Why everybody keeps on referring to Dangote? BUA, I'll give BUA some of his flowers. That guy has.
Let me say something there. Yeah. Before Dangote and BUA, there used to be Arishekola Lau. He used to supply yams to Ecomog. He made billions. Let's not take anything from Dangote. The guy is a good businessman. Let's not kill this guy and throw the baby in the bathwater. He has used his connections well. And what he is doing is what the robber barons in America, they had to fought themselves. The problem I have is that it seems to have gotten a bit too much on the Nigerian government. I don't fault him. I don't fault him for doing what he's doing. If you give me the opportunity and I have the means, I'm pretty sure I will do maybe half of what he's doing. But he's been a very, very good businessman. So I don't want to really say, oh, this guy, no. I just think that he should he can't do everything. He can't be, once you want to import cement, he sends Navy SEALs after you. As if he alone can supply all the cement. It's a massive market. And that's my view. I'm not against the guy. I think he has done a lot for the nation. And he will do more for the nation. But this kind of petty fight, I don't like it, man. It speaks bad to Nigeria.
But Kalu, let's think about it, right? For any business, monopoly is the end game as a business. You don't start a business for charity. You go into business for monopoly. Now, where the problem starts, or rather where the end comes, is when that monopoly begins to even threaten the integrity of the country. We have this guy borrowing money from Nigeria, going to go and open up a cement factory in Zambia, when we have not finished meeting the need of cement here in Nigeria. But he's borrowing from here at subsidized rates to go open up new frontiers. Now, that would have been fantastic and whatnot if those monies were coming back into our coffers to help us with, Forex and whatnot. But no, these monies are being sent to New York. Okay. Where they have set up family offices, family banks to store these monies. Now, like I said, I agree with you 100%. The guy is basically using the stupidity and callousness, of people here to his advantage, which any businessman would do, in all honesty.
I mean, because there are Dangotes everywhere. If you go to the east, there is this guy called Ato Eze. You go to the west, I call Arishekola Lau. Dangote is the one from start. I can tell you, but I used to work for a guy that was very, very good friends with Dangote. Long time ago, this guy was importing. It was an importer. Dangote was an importer. When Obasanjo gave that cement policy that he said he was going to ban cement companies bringing in imports, and he was going to support local cement guys. WAPCO, Northern Nigerian Cement Company, BCC Cement Company, those are the largest cement companies in Nigeria. What were they doing when Dangote was building the cement companies in Ogun State and buying BCC? They assumed because it was government that the policy would die. That's what they assumed. So Dangote went from having zero footprint to being the largest cement importer. You can't blame Dangote. He took advantage of their lack of willingness to invest in Nigeria, and he invested and he's reaping. The same with this refinery that we are seeing right now. Dangote, there have been 27 licenses given for refineries in Nigeria. 27 before Dangote got his own. But Dangote is the one that is building one. It's $15 billion. This refinery was the plan. He's almost at 20 billion. That's capital outlay right there. Why didn't anybody else build a refinery? We'll say PIB, but why didn't anyone build? Dangote can't be the only one with connections. So even though but why aren't the other rich guys stepping up? I put a story about I was in Abuja and I was with some billionaires with my Oga in Abuja, and there's a guy that came from Brazil. His name is Carlos. This guy owns a factory, a farm in Enugu. He does pineapples in Enugu. He exports pineapples. This guy was making a presentation to these billionaire guys, and he was telling them that Nigeria has got AGOA. So any agricultural product that leaves Nigeria to Europe and America, they don't tax it because we're coming from Nigeria. So what he did, he left Brazil, came to Nigeria. He's exporting pineapples and some stuff from Nigeria to Portugal, Spain, and America. He doesn't pay taxes because it's coming from Nigeria. He was telling Nigeria that he wants to go into tomato. He wants to do this what's called this glass houses or that. what's the name, for tomatoes. And I was asking them to partner with him. He didn't need their money. He wanted their connection. So if anyone tried to stop him, he would say it's a quote-unquote Nigerian project. He was asking them to invest. They were telling him they were giving excuses. I was there. I was there. The guy was saying, listen, I'm telling you, don't worry. Anything you invest and you cannot buy, ship, I will buy from you. He was more or less guaranteeing their output. Nobody listened to the guy. It's a true story. You go to Enugu, Carlos, somebody, he exposed pineapples. Nigerians,
It was a fine shop, right? I know.
Nigerians, because are not interested in things that take hard work. They don't want all that. If it's oil license, you see them there. If it's to get license to bring private jet, you see them there. If it's anything else, they'll just pay money and make more money, you see them there. But it's to invest. That's why Dangote invested in a cement factory. And it's today the largest cement factory. Nowhere in the world can it happen. You can't wake up tomorrow and go to America and start your own factory and beat the number one and number two players in that market. It's the same thing. Look at banking. GT came from nowhere and beat First Bank. Zenith nowhere and beat First Bank. The rich people in Nigeria stay static. They don't expand. At least Dangote is doing some things. That's just my defense of Dangote. Let me get Mrs. Ella here.
Sorry, Kalu, can I just chime in?
I know, but I wanted to get different. Let's just get
Hello, Kalu.
Yeah, let's just get different voices in
Kalu,
here.
I've been here for a while.
Yeah, I know. I'll let you in. Ella, I can hear you. Go ahead, Ella.
Okay. Just to divert from the Dangote BUA feud, I think at the end of the day, our leaders are very short-sighted. That's just what it is. Very short-sighted. That's why our solution, or their solution to every problem, is to throw money at it. And it reflects in everything we do. That's why fuel subsidy is removed, and the solution to it is to share money. When there are options for putting out BRT buses, bring down transportation costs, it will reflect in food. You won't have this high level of food inflation. It reflects in FX to exchange rates. No matter how much $1 million you pump into the markets, if you're pumping $10 million, you pump in $20 million, at some point, the Naira will still assume its value because it's reflective of what's going on, the activities of the economy. So these are the issues. The solution is always to throw money at the problem. Now, what is pushing Naira, or what is bringing out the value of Naira, is demand and supply. It's as simple as these things. Good governance is not rocket science. It's demand and supply. You're not exporting enough, and you're importing more. That's the same net export you're talking about. You have education, people studying abroad. These are things that take up that reflect on the supply, on the demand. Education, healthcare. So these things are not being addressed. No matter how much money is pumped into the market, give it months. After some time, you will see the Naira will still go down in value because the main issues are not being addressed. Now, you have the same thing applies. If you have an economy that is working, you don't need to go outside. I see photos of Vice President goes to talk to foreign investors and all of that. Those are just options. If you have something foreign investors want, you won't need to go out to look for them. If you've created an environment for them, you won't need to go out to look for them. They would come looking for you. So our leaders are very short-sighted, and until we start addressing these fundamental issues, we're just going to keep beating about the bush and keep arriving at the same point. I think that's just it, basically.
Yeah, Ella, thanks. I just want to get a different take, different voice into the room, just to to move them around. Good point. I hear you. Net export, you said it. Our big boys are a bit too static, not too imaginative, and all that. I hear you. Hugos, I hear you. Let me go around the room. Millie has been waiting. Millie Shield.
Carol, I've been waiting too.
I'm going around. Who be that? Who be that?
Hugos, I've been here.
Yeah, Hugos. After Millie Shield will come. Hugos, you've been talking now, B. Don't worry, we're going around.
Since I came up.
We're going around. I'm just looking at this as I'm seeing. So Millie Shield, then Adas Sogwa, then Yusuf, then Malam, then Junior.
I've been waiting since.
I hear you,
just
bro.
Talk now. I've been the next in line.
Oh yeah, talk now. Talk. Talk.
So thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for what you've been doing, for educating, young Nigerians because in the past there used to be little or no interest from the youth when it comes to finance, but recently there's been an growing increase in the interest of the youth when it comes to finance. So you're doing a good job, and actually we need people like you in government, like heading even if it's not Ministry of Finance, at least some financial parastatals.
Give me one small minute. Let me just hold myself up. Just one small thing like that.
I have at least, yes, now, because I've been listening to you, and I turn on notifications for your post because I learn a lot from you. Yeah, so the thing is, I have a few questions I want to ask. Number one, what happened to Ibeto? Because I remember a few years ago, like, it was among, if not the first or the biggest cement supplier in Nigeria. Or at the point, he was in competition with Dangote, but all of a sudden, he just fizzled out of the market.
Should we be honest? Should we be honest?
Yeah, I know government backing and monopoly is part of it, but I would like to get an expert submission regarding that. And number two, I was here about 2 days ago. I came on Twitter and I saw a post from the Whale Alert, a Twitter account that posts when huge Bitcoin transaction happens by the whales. So they posted about 1.something billion USDT transferred from an external wallet to Binance, and in about 1 hour time, the CEO of Binance, that is CZ, posted Nigerian flag on his page. And you know what happened to Naira at that moment? So Naira plummeted from let's say above 1,000 to like 800. Yeah. So I would like to get your submission regarding that, like considering the whale's post and CZ's post, like CZ post. So like in juxtaposition, I would like to get your submission. Then thirdly, which is going to be my last point. I advised some friends and family members to convert their Naira to USDT. I asked ones that I could buy from the local bureau de change to convert to dollars, physical dollars. That was about 2-3 weeks ago when it was around 1,213. And all of them, they're all on my neck now saying I gave them a wrong advice and all because Naira plummeted to like 800 a few days ago. And so now they're asking me, what do we do? What's going to happen long term? You think Naira will keep on going down, or you think it will recover or something? So I know you say at the end, not financial advice, but I'd like to get your projection about the Naira, like long term, short term, middle term projection of what's actually going to happen to the Naira. Do you think it's still going to come down in the coming weeks or months, or do you think eventually it's still going to get high and high and high? So thank you.
I hear you. Good questions. I'll answer them. Let me try and answer them. Number one, let's tell the truth about Ibeto. Lots of folks talk about Ibeto and they get very, very tribal. What happened was that Obasanjo gave a ban on bringing in bagged cement. He says we're going to stop imports of cement. If you want to do cement, you have to do local production. The problem was that Ibeto had a license to bring in bagged cement. I don't know how he got it. So what Ibeto was doing was not what the government wanted. They wanted you to set up a factory locally before you can bring in bagged cement. But I think Ibeto had a license to still bring in bagged cement. So when he was bringing it in, of course, the guys that had invested locally in Nigeria reported him and fought against him, and that's why he had the problems he had. The question I have for Ibeto was, why didn't he simply go to Nkalagu cement factory, buy it, then import his bagged cement? Then he would have been 100% in the clear. He simply wanted to keep on importing this bagged cement. Yes, his bagged cement were cheaper than the Dangote, the Wabco cement, but that's not the point, right? When the government, Obasanjo was going for import substitution, he did that with recharge cards, with fruit juice, with cement, very successfully. Key into the government. Why didn't he just buy in Nkalagu? He could have raised the money with the southeastern governors and bought in Nkalagu. Once he bought it, he didn't even have to repair it. Then import your bagged cement. And that's the honest truth. So I'm open to be talked better, but that's what happened to him even till today. He had the license, But overall, those licenses were being replaced by the government program. There was no law that said this, so Obasanjo just simply said, this is what I'm going to do. And he sort of enforced it. There was no law that Obasanjo just says, if you don't invest, I will ban you. But Obasanjo was trying to create this, what they call in South Korea, chaebols, where he would get people with Transcorp. He created local big players to compete with the foreigners. That's what Obasanjo did in Nigeria at that time. And I think this gentleman was totally out of the line. He didn't key in, he didn't read the room of where the Obasanjo regime was going to. That's on eBay too. Let's go to this CZ Nigeria thing. We'll talk about it, right? What simply happened was somebody introduced dollars into Binance. Why Binance or why FX market? Because he was targeting those Nigerians that are doing crypto. He wanted to send a message to Nigeria that I can come to you and get you. How they get them? He will crash their forward pricing. So what happens in the currency market? If I buy, the stock goes up. If I sell, the stock goes down. If you go to the market, Nigerian Naira is always on sell. Dollars, whether it's USDT or dollar, is always on buy, on bid. So what he did was when he put in $1 billion, that's a significant amount of money. He put it on bid. On offer. That means that he was selling dollars. Of course, Naira will rise. And that's what happened that day. So people now panicked. Naira was rising. Lubia said Naira was rising. You heard that Nigeria has just won the PID bill. You heard Nigeria was getting money from JP Morgan and Qatar. All that sort of spooked people that maybe these guys have money coming. Let's quickly cover our positions and leave the market. Now, how do you cover your position on the long? You cover your position long by you buying the other currency, which is you buy the Naira. So people started to buy Naira and sell dollars. So Naira rose to 790 and dollar fell. That's what happened. The question now is, what happens tomorrow? Will they introduce under 1 billion? Nobody knows. And that's the point of the person that introduced that 1 billion. He introduced it to create ambiguity in the market. Because when there's uncertainty, the spreads tighten. Because you don't know what's going to happen. So tomorrow, anybody that wants to build up this position in Naira will think twice. If I want to go and borrow 20 million to invest in USDT and short the Naira, I will think twice because Mr. Cardoso can come to the market. Again, that's why they did it. And it's working. Ultimately, this is now answering your third question. Ultimately, where do you think the Naira will go, the direction Naira will go? It's very simple. Look at your indicators. If you see crude oil output start to go from 1.5 million barrels a day to 2 million barrels a day, my brother, sell your dollars. If you see Emirates airline flying back to Nigeria, my brother, sell your dollars. These are your indicators. The Naira is a derivative of crude oil. If crude oil output in Nigeria starts to go up, Naira will gain value. Any other thing they are telling you is nonsense. If crude oil output, I mean the output from Nigeria to the ships in the Delta, start to go up, of course, and oil prices remain as high as they are, then the Naira will gain value. It's that simple. You don't need to go to any Babalawo. So the post that you told to buy Naira, these are short-term shocks. Long-term, what will happen to the crude oil export number? The budget they put for 3 years, Ministry said it's going to go to 1.7. That's laughable. That's too small. We've got to target about 2.2, 2.3 for the Naira to be substantially strong enough to create reserves in the CBN to keep knocking the knees of the speculators. You can't fight speculators without foreign reserves. And the speculators know how much CBN has. That's why they're not scared. But doing this in and out is like SEAL Team 6. You go in, you go out. It's commando raid, and you put them on their toes so they can't take a position. That's the whole idea. Olivia wanted to say something.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to add some points. Spot on, Kalu. So, the problem we have with many speculators in Nigeria is they're on the retail side and they don't have strong buying power and longevity in the market. So let me give you an example. Dangote, for example, can hold his position for years and definitely just put his fund in 10-year treasury bond. And he will just be taking the 5% coupon till otherwise. But the average Nigeria has a short-term projection. So you see what happened on Friday, the reason why we saw that panic and why I feel that speculation is not suitable for the novice and retail investor, particularly the fact that there are so much opportunities in our market. Now, if you look at this year, it has never happened in the history of Nigerian stock market where some sector will record 100% gains. Now, let me give you an example. UBA did more than the dollar return in the black market. Fidelity did more than that. If you look at tech stocks, for example, CWG, Champs, they did more than that. Energy stocks, all the energy stocks, including Orlando, did better than the dollar. So the question right now is that a lot of people don't understand that there's a difference between hedging, speculating, and also positioning you for the longer view. Nobody's saying you should not invest in dollar, but the question here is that a lot of people speculate for short-term and aggressive grabs and end up burning themselves. So my final take is that the CBN understands this, and you see what happened in the market, like I mentioned, was a trade of less than $2 million. If you look at the USDT on Friday, if you look at the positions that from buy and sell, was less than $1.5 million. What the CBN is just trying to, CBN was just focused on was clearing the FX backlogs of tier 2 banks and international banks like Standard Chartered, Citi, and Stanbic. That really worked. And you see, yes, we know oil is the major burner for Naira long term. But the reality is that when you create panic for speculators, you now weaken the incentive for the average Nigerian to speculate, because the trust of the Naira was at an all-time low. Now it's changing a bit. And that changing is reflecting in the market, despite the fact that we know that this is temporary. So, we need to also look at the short, long, and the beaver part of the market. That's why I said at the end of the day that, well, I think it's going to be wise for you to understand that speculating, particularly when you don't have strong buying power, is a full paradise.
I got you. I mean, it's very simple. So, let's just go down. On the time, let's go down the room and just answer. So, I've got Millie Shield. Go ahead, sir. Millie Shield, thanks for holding on. I'm going to go around the room. Go ahead and speak. Millie Shield, you got the floor. 2 minutes.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. It's going to be like just 1 minute. I've waited for about 1 hour for this 1 minute, which is fine. We have presidency in Nigeria. We have all his aides, everybody around him. We have the National Assembly. We have the House of Rep. We have a lot of ministers. We have 36 state governor with 1 FCT in quote governor. They all have commissioners. We have also our state National Assembly. We have thousands upon thousands of commissioners. We have a lot of professors in the universities. We have a whole lot of business people, very intelligent people that when they talk, you feel like licking their lips. But to date, Nigeria does not have a roadmap to escape all these problems Nigeria has. Just a simple question. Is this how we'll continue to be? I'm almost 50 years old now. And since I was born, Nigeria graph has been on the decline. One government after the other. Is this how we're going to continue? I see a lot of people fighting Kalu when he tells the truth. I see how he is sweating to educate them online. Is this how we're going to continue? That is just my question. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. That song, Shey Now Like This We Go Day, that comes to mind. I mean, he's asking if you look, this is those lyrics. Shey Now Like This, those lyrics are still the same then and now. Same lyrics. Shey Now Like This We Go Day. Adasiogo, let's get you. Adisoago. Please.
Adisoago.
Adisoago. I apologize, sir. Go ahead.
Thanks, Carlo, for your time. I am optimistic. I feel like what has happened in the past decade, I don't think it's all because of loss in crude oil production. As of 2018, when we had high production, Nigeria was still very bad. I think it was more driven by bad policies and inefficiency in government as well that led to low production. So I'm optimistic because I've been following these new government's policies. There's a bill in the Senate right now about making, enforcing Naira as a legal tender. I'm not sure. I'm neither here nor there on that. I saw the time Naira's policy and what this bill is trying to do. And my question is, I believe in this policy. I believe if this policy were to be implemented, and with the macroeconomic changes with Dangote refinery coming up, Mudla refinery coming up, and even our refinery is being fixed, I think the outlook looks good if those things happen. My question is, do you think otherwise? And what do you think particularly about the policies preferred by
I don't know which policy. I'm not sure which policy you are talking about. Naira is already
the tax reform policies where I think they listed about 20 things they'll be doing, right? And some of them also are related to the
I hear you.
To the forex.
I mean, see, if you want to get the best policy in the world, Nigeria has them. The policies that Nigeria brings out are superior to the policies that are brought out in Singapore, in Russia, Indonesia, in India, in America. The problem in Nigeria is the implementation of those policies that we list out. I mean, all the stuff you've said, the difference is that if it was in America, it would happen. In Nigeria, it will not happen. We've just heard Mr. Dangote and BUA. So one guy is saying we close the borders, but one guy's goods could leave the borders. Is that not a good policy? What happened? We've had cases where guys are giving loans under the table. We have cases today where we have a government policy that PMS subsidy has gone, but PMS subsidy is still being paid. So it's not the policy. I'm not too keen on the policies. I'm keen on the implementation of the policies. Look at the budget we've just released, where we are saying that the 5 billion allocation can go into the budget, but we don't know how we got there. They are saying that it's not the president's budget. So is the president who would have signed what he didn't know about? That tells you how budgets are done in Nigeria and who is actually ultimately responsible. So I would go more of the implementation, not those things that you're talking about. You said Dangote refinery, but we just heard.
One question.
Dangote refinery is going to import crude oil.
My question was, let's assume that, I agree with you. It's all about implementation. It's not about what you say. But do you even think that if for some reason they get to implement these policies, do you think it would work?
Of course it would work if they implement them.
Awesome.
Of course.
Okay,
when the government started, they brought out two great policies, and we said these were wonderful policies. The removal of subsidy and the float of Naira. We said they were good policies. We said they would boost GDP. We said they would boost jobs. If they get those, even one policy right, it would have a positive effect on the Naira. Of course, I've told you, I have a tracker, Emirates tracker. The day you see Emirates fly back to Nigeria, go and sell your dollar. I've said it. Why is Emirates not flying back? It's not our own policy that makes Emirates not to fly back. It's our own policy. The day you fix the oil depth in our delta, the Naira will go up. It's not our own policy. So these are simple policies that we can do tomorrow. We have bandits in farms in Nigeria. Take them away. Inflation falls. Again, our own policy. So yes, if you implement the policies, of course the economy will do better. There's no debate there. Implement them is the issue. Malam Batiside, you've got the floor, sir.
Good afternoon, good evening. Wherever I'm speaking from. I see that you've not learnt my name. Batisad.
Batisad. No thanks.
Yes. Thanks very much. I'll be very fast. So Dangote versus BUA, they need to just sort themselves out. What I'm interested in is let's ensure that Nigeria wins at the end of the day. Particularly Dangote. I think some of those games that they played with CBN under Emefiele, we need to know what's going on there, and they need to figure it out. Yes. But what I really wanted to talk about is the exchange rate. I was listening to somebody who said USDT created a problem for him. I mean, the truth of the matter is that one of the biggest problems we have with the exchange rate is the fact that you actually do not know whether Naira will gain or lose. Because even when you have all of those variables that are in support, then you also have to look at these variables are going to be in the hands of these guys, politicians, that they don't have a lot of brand, equity. Let's have it right in terms of trust. I mean, none of these guys have declared their asset. For me, that's a red flag. Why would you own president, vice president? I don't think any of them have declared their asset. Why? So
that's true.
I mean, because
that's true.
They have not.
That's true.
They have not. So when you see that, you should know that. Look, we have always had this good, promises and all of that from these guys. What they would do is what they would do. So I really wanted to say that normally, if we fix NNPC in the short term, in terms of demand and supply, Naira should gain, other things being equal. Right? We're talking about it the other day, and I said that domestic supply obligation, I actually found out that NUPRC has issued a regulation to that effect. They call it domestic supply obligation regulations, which will enable them. I mean, this is sort of like a framework that will enable them, get, crude oil to be able to feed our local refinery. But I don't know how well that is going. But you see, if this happens, and like you said, we're able to try and close the gap between where we are and what the OPEC allows us to do, naturally, when you have a government that is not corrupt, that truly wants to do well for Nigerians, we should see a difference. So that's number one. Number two is the fact that, in terms of what is happening to the FX rate, I think a lot of it, if you ask me, is the fact that these guys are sort of trying to use information to manipulate the market. Yes, they are doing a little bit, but they're also trying to, trying to create this atmosphere of fear that, Naira is going, it could be 500. If they don't, it also goes down to, do you have enough supply to meet the demands? If the answer is no, then it's just, it's a matter of time to go down. And then the corruption, the politicians, the corruption, instead of allowing the impact, if they're supposed to gain, is it going to be allowed to get through, to pass through, so that Nigerians can feel the effects, or we are not going to create some kangaroo projects and use that and to siphon money? So in terms of the budget, I actually think that, apart from the annoying line items, for example, the office of the First Lady is not known to law. Why are you even telling me you want to? Yes.
Let me give you the answer.
We need to tell ourselves the truth.
The answer is because the answer is when you put the office of the First Lady in the federal budget, you have by estopel created that office. Next year, when you see commission for the office of the First Lady, you can't complain because it's already in the budget and it said nothing. So they don't need budget to buy cars for the office of the First Lady. They can hide it under head of service or whatever. But they put it there so that it is there in black and white, so that tomorrow you cannot come and say it's an illegal office. How can it be legal when the federal government is funding it? That's why they put it there.
Yeah, let me just quickly wrap up. It's really unfortunate that we have things like this. In a situation, on a good day, maybe it's not actually wrong to honor the president. When you are asking Nigerians to take baby steps of pain, everybody to tighten their belt, people are getting poorer by the day, and you are there. There's no sign that we're in the same country. To be honest, the kind of top heavy, we, instead of us cutting down on cost of governance, we have new ministries created, new offices. Everybody's just at that top. They are really completely disconnected from what is going on here. And lastly, I'm going to say that I think I look at the budget and I'm like, okay, so this security again, I've been looking at it. I think one of the problems that a lot of Nigerians are not looking at in terms of our security is actually the fact that we have an opaque security budget. All kinds of line items come in there, and you can't really, they'll say you cannot really going pay because of security. Yet we're not really making significant progress when it comes to really taking over our territories and ensuring that we really sure that we have a military that can subdue and suppress insecurity. So for me, I think we should look into that and change some of the policies around this security budget. That's really why I even wanted to speak about the budget. That security budget needs to be looked at, to ensure that we bring in some transparency. It can be audited. You can keep it confidential, but let's ensure that people account for it. The fact that this is not being accounted for is contributing to corruption, and is also contributing to insecurity, because there has to be insecurity for you to continue to justify that budget.
Got you.
Thank you very much, my youth.
Appreciate it, sir. Yeah. Appreciate it. I'm looking at my line down. I am Ajua. Zion_Lion Niger. Please go ahead, sir. You got the floor. Zion, you got the floor going once. Zion got the floor going twice. I've got Ice News. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Thank
you. Good evening, everybody.
Thank you so much.
For you, Carlo.
Yes,
thanks for the opportunity. As much appreciated.
Ice News is speaking. So, I drew after Ice News. You can speak. Go ahead, Ice News.
All right. Thank you very much. So, everything being said, all we've been talking about is the betterment of this country, how to move the country forward. And one of the key things each and every one of us have been saying here is the dollar. And it's very simple. I'm a contractor, and most of the things I do are imported. From even the minutest thing I use, they are all imported. Fuel is imported. I can tell you that in a site, I spent 7,000 Naira for fuel a day in one site. Just one site. In a day, 7,000 Naira a day. It's not. We don't even put our tanks on full now, because you'll be ritualist now if you fill your tank now. Yeah, you take get money. I'm from the Niger Delta. We have crude oil everywhere. Kalu, I can take you to a community. Once you go community that has up to 32 oil wells, I will take you there. You see it with your eyes. Their arm is there. I will just tell my boss, you just enter. You see, you will count there with your eyes. 32 oil wells, but more than 32 should be about 32 or 35. But go to the community, you see nothing there. It's as if nothing is happening there. People are trying to make ends meet by locally refining crude oil. You are saying it is bunkering. Okay, let's not justify the busting of pipelines. Okay, it's very simple. Set up an association for them. There should be a leader. You sell crude oil to these people. You monitor them and regulate them. It's very simple. It's very simple. Let me tell you something. Most of the fuel we buy here. I am speaking from Warri, Ugeli precisely. Most of the fuel we buy here, let me tell you, they are from Bunkri. I will tell you. They are from Bunkri, and most of the people that has big filling station, that let me not even say this is a public space. That's one. And then oftentimes, Carlo, you've been talking about this thing. One of the problems that we have in Nigeria is a spending problem. All the governors and ministry parastatals, look at the cars they are driving. Let's just start from there. Look at the cars they are driving. They are all foreign brands. Or let's say 99% are all foreign brands. And this these cars that they are buying, every budget year they buy cars, and it's telling on the FX. Yes. And next year they will bring budget. I will still buy more cars imported.
Right, I got you.
So my own. Let me not just say that.
All right,
I
got you. Land the plane.
Okay, let me land. So it's very simple. Like what we have been saying here, running of government is not the rocket science. We should just have the political will. We should have leaders that have the political will to do the right thing. And even all these policies that we are talking about, bills being sponsored, as they are passing those bills, people are studying those bills for loopholes. So that's my take. Thank you.
I appreciate that, sir. Mr. Ayo Moses, you got the floor, sir. Mr. Ayo Moses, go ahead, sir.
Mr. Kalu.
Thank you, Kalu.
I'm so sorry. Ayo, could you hold on a bit? Ayo.
At the point, can you hear me?
I can. Could you just hold on a bit? I forgot I had this guy on hold. Could you just hold on a bit? Let me tell Mr. Ayo Majunwa to just speak, sir. Ayo, you're going to be next. I do apologize. Ayo Majunwa, please go ahead.
No problem.
Yes, sir.
No problem.
I'm Majunwa, please. You got the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Kalu, thank you for this opportunity. I want to ask some questions, right? I believe that the Naira is being defended now by the CBN. That is what is being done now. That is what I believe, and the impact is showing in the way the Naira is bouncing back. For me personally, I believe the policy of floating the Naira, whatever you call it, subsidy removal, happening at the same time was an on-go. And that is what has brought us to where we are today. I don't support the fact that those two policies should happen immediately, right? Because we depend on imported petroleum products. You devalue the price of petroleum products, go high, and it affects everything that we do. So for me, it was a wrong move for the government to devalue and remove subsidy. I support subsidy removal immediately, but devalue, whatever you call it, I do not support it immediately.
Okay, how would they? Okay, if they didn't devalue,
because I believe that this FS scarcity, I can say it anywhere, that it is largely artificial.
What are you saying?
The government should investigate the banking system.
Okay.
Transactions. That's what I believe.
How is it artificial? How? Does banks have dollars but they don't want to bring it out? How is it artificial? Explain to me.
Okay. We have, for instance, CBN has $1 million to sell to 10 people who need $5 million, right? Now, they sell that whole $1 million to one individual. The individual comes back because the rest of the people don't have access to the dollar.
But the total CBN reserves are not up to 50 billion. We know that it's not up to 50 billion, and we know our imports. Yes. So we know exactly the pressure on the Naira. So what's artificial in the 50 billion on our import? The dollars are not enough. The CBN governor said oil sales have not been paid. What is practical? I'm giving you figures now. The CBN governor said that the oil sales have not gone to the CBN in almost how long? Emefiele said it. We are using the oil money to defend the Naira. NNPC is using the oil money, to import PM into Nigeria. So when we sell crude oil, we don't get dollars into Nigeria. That's a fact. Even if that dollars came into Nigeria, all the oil sales you make in Nigeria, all of it, go to pay the CBN's interest on their ways and means. If you take away that one, it goes to pay for debt. Take away debt, it goes to pay civil servant salary. So where is the oil money you're talking about? Where is this money you take? This is the fact I'm giving you, numbers.
Okay, Kalu, let's just be practical, right? If CBN says they have $100 million to sell today, right? And there's a demand for $500 million, right? $500 million. Even if the dollar even if you crash the Naira to 5,000 Naira to $1, it will not discourage people from buying.
It will. If you make the dollar expensive, then nobody will buy it because you can't afford it. It's simple economics. If it's expensive today, you will not buy it.
It has not.
What do you mean it has not? Why do you think imports are expensive into Nigeria now? Why are you not driving your car? The guy that just passed said he doesn't drive his car is half tank. Why is it half tank? Why is it not full tank? Because the dollar is expensive. That's why. Understand what's going on, sir. If you defend your Naira, you lose your reserves. You can't have both of them at the same time. You can't have a strong Naira and high reserves. You can't have both at the same time. So why the government devalued and allowed the subsidy on payments to go, because they could not afford it. I get the fact that yes, there are wasteful spenders in the government, but they simply could not afford. They were broke. They entered government. Look at what I'm telling you. Hear what I'm telling you. The total revenues, 100% revenues Nigeria gets from the sale of crude oil is not up to what Nigeria is paying the CBN interest on borrowed money. Go and Google it. We are paying the CBN $1 trillion. Total revenues is less than 500 billion. Google it. So what are we talking about?
Also, look at the demand side too.
Hello?
CBN data said that the amount of funds spent on foreign education has reduced, and DTA has reduced just because of the cost of. So you are right, Kalu.
It's not rocket science. If it's expensive, you can't buy it. You can't. If you want to eat rice, Sheraton has rice. Maput has rice. Why don't you go to Sheraton every lunch for your lunch? Why don't you go to Sheraton for lunch every day? You can't afford it. What I mean everyone.
You have a point. Yeah, I know you have a point. But one thing I want to tell you about this largely artificial, is because do you know that some persons will get their formula approval very fast?
Yeah, but you can't.
Why some people will not get it very fast? We stay like 1 year and they will not get it.
I hear you, but you can go outside and get dollars.
Special treatment. Those who are putting more pressure on the Naira. If everybody go and stay on queue, it becomes, there's no favoritism.
My brother, right? there's no dollar in the country.
Everybody gets, you go and stay on queue. If you can wait for 1 year for your formula to be approved, fine. But you see that the people who get preferential treatment, Dangote will get his dollar, while other people will not get.
It doesn't take away the fact that.
Other people will not get.
But Dangote, look at the point.
Back and forth on FX. But there's another thing
it doesn't take the fact away that Dangote wants 10 billion and only gets 5 billion. The point I'm trying to make to you is this: there are no dollars coming in. You are talking about preferential treatment. You are correct. Dangote gets dollars before you and I. But still, Dangote wants 10 and gets 5. There are no dollars. That's the point I'm making. Ayo, you've got the floor, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Kalu. Like I was saying, I would have loved to come in after your last submission when you talked about Dangote versus BUA, because that is what my interest is in this topic. And now, so every time we talk about this Dangote versus BUA, I know the last time we did, you still made the point about, how we got into cement and now it's number one in cement. And I don't know where this will get this narrative, although the Dangote team had come out to say that it was the BUA Industries that sponsored that narrative in 2016 to say, they were getting these monies for free, or government was
not
giving them preferential treatment.
I'm talking about Ayo.
So that they can compete the rest people.
Ayo, not cement. I'm talking about the money for his petrochemical plants came from the CBN at reduced rates. Cement, I don't know where he got the money from.
I'm talking generally. I'm coming from cement, and there's a reason why I'm taking cement, because what is happening in cement, and this narrative people are talking about in cement, is going to happen in 2032 or 2030. Now, like you rightly said, Obasanjo came out and said, you know what, you guys are not going to be importing anymore. Go and backward integrate. We have the limestone, we have the raw materials, we have everything. The only thing you're going to import is the gypsum, So go to work, everybody. And Dangote went to work. He went to source for the funding and all that, and he started with Dangote Cement Opajana.
Then it started expanding to Boko and Ribeshi and the rest of them. And now it has a total Nigerian capacity of about 32.25 million metric tons. And total African output is about 380 million metric tons. Dangote is doing an African output of about 51 metric tons, which is about 1/6 of the total market share of Africa, which is very large. Now, Dangote is a trailblazer. He is the first person that takes all of this risk. When he's taking this risk, people don't say it. When he begins to benefit from this risk, they say, "Oh, he's enjoying monopoly. Government is supporting him ahead of the others." And the reason why I say is, I want to give you a typical example. Now, in the sugar industry, government has a National Sugar Master Plan. And the second phase of the National Sugar Master Plan. And the National Sugar Master Plan says, all of you in the sugar field, you will stop importing. Go and backward integrate. Go and set up farms in Nigeria and all of that, so that, you can begin to produce and do everything in Nigeria instead of importing. Now, BUA is claiming to be, the biggest sugar refinery, whereas the Dangotes of this world have purchased over 99,000 hectares of land, to start their backward integration program. He's doing 33,000 in Numa and Yola. He's going to be doing 66,000 in Tonga, in Nasarawa, and all of that. So now he's losing money trying to get the right, materials, the right sugarcane to grow. So now the Dangote Sugar Refinery, Numa Yola, has not made a single profit. They've been trying to master the backward integration, for their sugar stock and all that. The best ones that they will use to get the best output for sugar. They've added 3 units of refinery at the ones at Numa. They're going to start, with high-tech sugar refinery at Tunga. Now they're making all these investments. If by the time Dangote is set, by 2030, is at producing and at manufacturing everybody in sugar, they'll start saying again that, government gave him all the support, government gave him all of that. Whereas he's the one taking these government policies seriously. And people seem to be bashing him for taking government policies seriously. Like you rightly said, he's the one that takes advantage of the government policies. So why do people bash him for taking advantage of government, the policies that government said? Government says, go and backward integrate. The man goes to look for the funding to backward integrate. He is the first person to get into the market. He gets the highest market share. People say it's monopoly and they begin to bash him. So my question is, would we Nigerians prefer foreign entities to come to do these investments in Nigerians and are repatriating all these funds abroad, so that we don't have to bash any Nigerian or say maybe any Nigerian is getting advantage? I strongly believe if there's a Nigerian player, a citizen player in a country that is doing well, like in every other country, if you go to America, the big farmers and all that, government gives them huge support, one way or the other. So there's no serious government that will not give its big players in its country, the citizens that do big businesses, full government support so that they can thrive. And for the man that says that, for the investments Dangote does abroad, that he source money from the interbank to do abroad, he doesn't repatriate funds in Nigeria. In a statement to what? They put all the list there of the amount of money they repatriated to Nigeria from the different Dangote cement companies across Africa. So I think we should chill with this, generic narrative of, Dangote is a monopoly and all that. But nobody gives him his flowers for being the first person to go into these, high-risk areas. Like you rightly pointed out, he has gone into refinery. From a project on paper that was $9 billion, he has done almost $20 billion. If it was a government project, government would have abandoned it halfway. This is a project that even top oil refiners across the world told him that he was mad to go into it because we didn't have a single infrastructure to build an oil refinery in Nigeria. But he did because of the scale of the oil refinery. He did it still. Yet we're still bashing him to say, why did you? Because at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, Dangote is still the second highest employer of labor after the federal government. If it doesn't build this infrastructure, if it doesn't build these companies, we will not employ people. Would you rather that he takes all his money and stashes it abroad like every other politician does, instead of investing in the country? So I think we should think about these things when we come to now bash Dangote for doing, I think those are the kind of people I consider to be patriotic, even if they are making their profits at the end of the day. That's my submission, Carlo. Thank you.
And I think it's well made. And I think, like I said throughout the session, Dangote is a good businessman, but we can't divorce the fact that he does get government help. Again, you cannot point to any nation on earth that does not support its businessmen. Look at Carlos Slim in Mexico. Look at the Suharto family in Indonesia. Look at even America, the rubber barons. Even till today, Solindria, the American solar, how they are supporting the renewable industries in America. So every society would pick its own child or his own son and support that child to grow. Obasanjo did that with Transcorp. That's the whole idea of Transcorp. He got all the millionaires, he put them in a company and said, I'm going to use this company to compete with the foreigners. I think Nigerians bristle if Dangote is doing only that, i.e. getting government patronage and expanding, Nigerians would not fault him. I think when Nigerians start to get on Dangote's back is when they see that he's doing anti-market things. Like, I want to set up my own cement company, then he goes after me. That's where I think Nigeria's issue with Dangote is. I personally think Dangote is a very, very good businessman. Like I've said, where we are WAPCO, cement company of Nigeria, BCC Alliance of Boko, the cement company, where were they? Eagle Cement, where were they when Dangote from scratch built up a brand new cement company and became the number one in Africa? What were they doing? Why didn't they expand capacity? They took the government as unserious. That's why. Same thing with this oil refinery, same thing with the petrochemical. Only NNPC had petrochemical in the LMA. They abandoned it. Indians came and took it over. If Dangote did not do a refinery, Indians would have done a refinery. That's just the point. So Ayo, I agree with you. I would say 90%, but Dangote needs to quote unquote chill. He needs to allow this thing to also go around. I think that's where, if you notice, people don't like the fact that this man is hitting him. So he's saying that I want to do this. Dangote does this. It's not necessary. Are we saying only one guy should do sugar or cement? I think that's where people don't like,
Hold on, Kalu, but why is Lafarge not accusing Dangote?
Maybe they don't
why
want
is
to
Gold
accuse him.
Sugar not accusing Dangote? So this is BUA saying that, I'm not holding brief for any of them because, of course, they are big businesses and they all have all these other tactics to undermine one another. But I'm just saying, why is it BUA that is accusing Dangote?
But is what BUA is saying. I think all we should be concerned about is if what BUA is saying is true. And if what BUA is saying is true, is it right? That's what we should be concerned about, not with Lafarge. If you don't accuse him, that's fine.
So let me give you something I'm a party to. Let me give you something.
Ayo Moses, sorry, let me chip in something for both of you. Dangote and BUA, they are fathers. Dangote's father, which is Dan Tata, his great-grandfather, and BUA's father, Issa Karabiu. This is the same fight they fight back in their days. It's not a fight that started between Dangote and BUA. It's a fight of families. It's like a family, Bill Gates of this world, Matt Dawson, and all of them. So try to understand the narrative. Just like Ayo said, why is he not fighting with Lafarge and the other one? Why is BUA wants to do every business Dangote is into? You need to look into that. So understand the
what's
root
wrong
of the
in
fight.
that? Again, guys, see, if they want to fight, they can fight. The point why it's even on this space is this. These are the two largest capitalized companies in Nigeria, and it affects the whole of Nigeria if the two largest cap companies are at loggerheads. And they're not accusing themselves of hating each other. They're not saying, I unfriend you on Twitter. They are saying that Mr. Dangote went and raided the foreign workers of BUA, put them on a plane to deport them. They are saying that Dangote is getting dollars that others cannot get. This is the point we're making. Forget about the personal side of it. He's bringing up institutional wrongs that one party has done.
So Kalu, on the part of the one that said Dangote was getting advantage, that has been debunked by Business Day.
No, Dangote got advantage. Hold on. Are you saying that Dangote did not get advantage? Is that what you're saying? Because I know he got advantage. I know for a fact.
I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm saying that any government would be stupid not to give advantage to big business. Any government in the world would be. So I'm not going to say, of course not. I'm not a child, you know. So I'm just saying from the perspective of BUA saying this and that, and all of that. So it is one statement against Dangote's statement. And like I said, of course there'll be underhand tactics to undermine one another. So we shouldn't emphasize on one statement over the other. So take Dangote Okpela. Take Okpela mines, for instance, the Obu mines. Dangote was mining it there now, and BUA wants part of the action. BUA has taken Dangote to court. Dangote could have come out to say, our operation in Okpela, BUA is undermining us by doing this and doing that, trying to take over our mines. So it depends on who's coming out first to say the narrative. But for me, what is important for me If all these fights, at the end of the day, it comes to a price where they want to crash the price in a way that it favors the masses, I am all for it.
Exactly,
so
Ayo. Now you have landed. Why is it that
the masses will smile?
Good, Ayo. Why is it that they are fighting, but cement price is still high? Let BUA crash Dangote's price by reducing his own price. Then Nigerians will say, we are supporting you. Let Dangote crash sugar price by crashing BUA's price. But these are two billionaires fighting over he said, she said. We're not interested in again, the fight does not concern me, but what they are saying is going to go to Bloomberg. Oh, Nigerian billionaire alleges that another billionaire deported his people. That's what's going to be there. That's why we're interested in that. Apart from that, who cares? Who cares what they fight about? Didn't Elumelu fight with the gentleman, Otedola? Yeah, but he was in at he told Otedola's son, Otedola went and took the business. And he told Elumelu, those are two billionaires also fighting, but he's not alleging that UBA went and did something behind the back to regulators. That's why that fight is a personality fight. But when you are saying that this company is using the avenues of state to diminish business at the expense of Nigerian consumers, that's a big problem. And I'm surprised that other regulators are not taking advantage of what he's saying. He is saying that this guy is making your costs go up because he's damaging competition. That goes beyond Dangote and BUA. That speaks to the rights of the consumers, you and I. And it should be investigated. And if they are found culpable, they should be made to pay. That's the point I'm coming at it. All right, Ayo. Again, thanks so much, guys. Guys, we've got about, 15 minutes to go. Let me get Bobby in here. Bobby Black, performing artist, king of the party. Bobby, can you hear me? Joe Paul, please go ahead, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Kalu, for this opportunity to talk here today. I've actually enjoyed the conversation from the background. I'm Joe Paul. I'm speaking from the city of Calabar. I'm also a radio personality, and I would have loved, I wish I had some time, I would have just loved to touch on the topic we have here, on some very key topic. I wanted to look at them from the angle of ethnicity and religion. Yeah. We need to look at bilateral stroke business agreement. We need to look at also production stroke consumption and also bottleneck in the Nigerian system. Now, let me just try to be a bit very brief. Number one, for any country, when we talk about exchange rate and the performance of any currency as against other foreign currency, some of the major things that makes most of these currencies to be performing more than others is the fact that if you check, facts are that any country that does not produce, any country that does not export, there is no way that their currency will be able to perform better with other currencies across the globe. And Nigeria fall in this very, very category whereby we don't export, we don't produce. Even when you have what to export, the bottleneck and the regulations are always strangulating the microeconomy, the entrepreneurs, people that want to grow and build their businesses. And it goes down to the fact that monopoly is what is playing out at the background. That is why we cannot produce, we cannot export. And now, when you want to also produce and export, you must look at infrastructure. Where there is no infrastructure, Nigeria has no roads, Nigeria has no rail, Nigeria, the airspace is not even connecting enough. Within the southeast, you don't have any southeast state that you can fly from one to another. You don't have even the southeast. There is no connecting flight between the south and the southeast. It is only between the southeast to the north and to the southwest. So when you have these things happening in governance, when they don't want to deregularize the air transportations, it becomes an issue. That is why the Naira cannot perform better against other currencies. And when we look at also bilateral business agreement, you can recall when China agreed with the Nigerian government that every business and exchange, importation and all of that happens between Nigeria and China should be done with the Naira and the yuan. Who remember that? Nobody is holding government accountable. What is happening that policy is not seeing the light of the day? CBN is sitting on it because of what?
No, it's
the West.
Joe, we have to I'll just let other people speak. But the yuan Naira trade is still going on. It's not stopped. It's still going on. It's actually not enough. That's why I don't hear about it. It's going on and it's perfect. It's just like we don't have enough yuan. But it's on.
Okay. So finally, let me just wrap up here so that other people can be able to speak. And another thing that I want to also look at is the fact that when we talk about production, especially the oil price that is going up every day, Nigeria spend in forex the more in importing refined crude back to Nigeria. What happens to all these guys that have developed what we call local refineries? What happened that we cannot bring them together, license them, form a regulation? Government should be able to partner with them and let them do that refinery locally in a more dignified manner so that government can get tax from it. They can even say, okay, we are paying 50% to make sure that you establish it according to standard. And how about the modular refineries and all of that? So if we do this and also unbundle the port authority, Lagos is not the only place. The closest territorial water contact from Europe and everywhere in the world is Calabar. Calabar port is not functioning. And they tell you a lot of stories. I am in Calabar. There is nothing wrong with that canal to the port. What of worry?
We need to close.
We can handle all of this and make sure that we unbundle the economy and we will have ourselves competing with other nations across the globe. Thank you, Kalu, for this opportunity.
Yeah, just for context, Calabar port needs to be dredged continually because of the stilt that comes in from the delta. So it needs to be continually dredged. There's a certain governor that was given the contract to dredge Calabar. He didn't. That's why Tinapa did not work, because the Calabar...
Hope Uzodinma was given the contract. That is where he made all the money that he's using to intimidate the Imo.
This man wants to kill you.
Number two.
No, you gotta go. No, hold up. No, I got you.
Kalu, sorry. Let me just inform you, this year, all the oil that, this woman, Northwest, has her tanks farms in Cross River State. The vessel that brings her oil dock in that same port we are talking about and upload. We have had 4 different vessels this year entered the Calabar port. So people don't want this to come to the media so that it will not look as if there is nothing actually wrong.
No,
I'm telling you, I am in Calabar.
To be honest, hold on. To be honest, it depends on the size of the ship. If the ship is really, really big that carries cargo, it needs a deeper breadth to dock. The ship that's carrying the crude oil for the lady might be a smaller ship. The port needs to be dredged. That's just the point. It needs to be dredged. Yeah. Let's get Blank in here. Blank, hop in. We're just counting down. We're still going to be off the space. We're about 10 minutes to go. Blank, go for it.
Yeah. Hello, Carlo.
Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, I'm going to be very brief because I've heard lots of people say things and quite some interesting things about this stuff. But a lot of people might not agree with me, but I feel Nigeria has a systematic problem of it seems more like they are trying to put Nigeria on a leash that we're not meant to move forward. Because if you look at some things, for example, I worked in Benue State for 2 years before I left there. There were some things about that state that was very funny. I'm just going to take a quick example so that we'll shed light on the things that happen. Benue is one of the, I think, maybe one of the states that is most blessed in the whole of the country. They have lots of things. Their mango is different. Their orange is different. Things about them, their yams are different. Some of them taste like you poured sugar on it, and you really just grew it like that. But here's the thing about Benue State. the main reason why we keep having issues in Nigeria is not just the government, because everybody keeps pointing to the government. We now have a people problem in Nigeria as well. In Benue today, I'm not so sure anymore, if you want to take a trailer load of yam out of, there's this place called Zakibiam, out of Zakibiam, the levy you're going to pay, you're going to get at least 5 stops before you even leave the state itself. And you'll be paying heavy levy. You can be paying as much as 200,000 and 300,000 before you leave the particular state. It's crazy because it's not even directly the government that is handling that stuff. It's like units among them or their leaders and stuff like that. So how do you expect a country with people with mentality like that to move ahead? It feels, like I said before, it might sound like a conspiracy theory, but we've gotten to a state where Nigeria has been faced with some crazy issues like security, healthcare, and the people are always behind these things. Sorry, I don't want to take much time or take any other person's time. Just wanted to chip that in there, that the people are actually the problem in this country if you look at it very well. Yeah. So it's not just pointing the hands at the government, that the government is doing this. The mentality of the people has gone dark. And it's just to give context to your comment, Zakibiam is the largest yam farm, I think, in West Africa. It might be in Africa, because Nigeria is the largest yam producer in Africa. So what you're saying is that the largest yam producer in Africa, we can't take yams to, say, Lagos or Abawe to be consumed because we overtax the output from Benue, meaning that food becomes expensive, and of course, inflation. A good point. I mean, is it rocket science to sort this out? Exactly. If you had a train, you can't tax a train, you know. So, but when we say, will they build an airport? I know when the governor of Benue wanted to build an airport, he called it a quote-unquote cargo airport. It's all the same thing. Build the rails. I think if we can build rails, most of these are taken away. Just this bribery. You put rice on the rail in Kebbi, take it to Lagos. Nobody will bribe it. So nobody will collect bribe, and you start to increase productivity and food goes around more. But good point, sir. I appreciate you for making that point. Thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome, Black. Senator, you've got the floor, sir. Ray Ayodeji, go for it, sir.
All right. Well done, gentlemen and ladies. Very importantly, I am not going to discuss what is going on with Dangote and BUA from the perspective of whatsoever they have had with each other. Historically, the Dan Tata and the Ahmad, I don't know what they are up to. But what I will speak to is the fact that whenever we say business environment is not properly constituted, or whenever we say it's hard to do business in a place, what exactly BUA is insinuating by that publication is what we are talking about, right? You can, on one hand, claim to want growth in your economy, and then on the other hand, right, foster monopoly. And see, I don't know any case anybody wants to make. I am not here to defend anyone. But one thing that is very important is to know that whatsoever we have in housing deficit in Nigeria, whatsoever we have in other form of infrastructure deficit in Nigeria, where cement usage might be needed, right, is being encumbered by whatsoever nonsense is going on in that space. You would recall as well that about a month or 6 weeks ago, was it 6 or 8 weeks, about 2 months or 1 month ago, BUA came out speaking of the fact that they had adjusted their ex-factory price for their cement produce. And one of these things that trailed that was the fact that people were saying, okay, let's see what Dangote will do next. But in the news, there was this quietness, right? But later, we found out, right, there were allegations that some people had gone to the northern part of the country, get the elders in that part of the country to engage some people so that whatsoever it is that had been done in the sense of that price adjustment will not see the light of the day. And a lot of people were asking me at that point, what is the impact of this on BUA? I said, first off, dropping price is not the problem if you can get volume up. We call it cost volume profit analysis, right? Dropping price is not a problem if you can get volume up, because the end goal at the end of the day is that you want to get volume up to a level wherein your overhead will be properly covered and enough will be left for investors to share. But what we have had since then is the fact that the prices that we are seeing BUA cement in the market has not changed. Immediately after we heard the allegation of somebody visiting some elders in the north, that is not good for a business environment. In no way is that good for a business environment. And now to take the conversation a notch higher, right? The issue of people in Benue, like my other brother spoke about, I think it's something we should deliberate more on, because at times it seems like we do not have this kind of consciousness to see some underlying structural issues within the Nigerian state. And this is where it will now go a little bit political, but I won't take it there. Ordinarily, I would have taken it there. But now the point is, Nigeria is stratified along a basis of ownership, wherein the people who own places, who administer places, some are non-state actors, some are state actors, but are not using the legitimate tool of the state to administer those places. In Benue State, for instance, I was speaking with a friend who was going to do yam business. Why are these yams not coming to Lagos? Of course, I used to buy my yam from Benue and I stay in Lagos. I buy it and I distribute among my people anyway I want to do it. Now the point is, why are these yams, these tubers, not getting to Lagos? And you know what we found out? If you are going to sell yam in the market in Lagos, right, there are some associations, if you are not part of them, that they will not ordinarily allow you to sell them. Government is not taking any profit from those associations. They are just there to scuttle business processes. Now, if you go to Benue as well, you will get a lot of other things, oranges, water view, but these things are not getting here. Not because they cannot get here. They are not getting here on one part because of infrastructural issues in the Nigerian state.
Can I have your land? So I want to take one more speaker after you. So can I have your land, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I will land in a minute, if you permit. Can I go ahead?
No, so I need you to land almost immediately so I can take one more and then sort of close. We'll have about 2 minutes to end, if you don't mind.
Yeah, it's a fair night. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. All right, guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this evening. Let me just take one last person. Called Prince. Prince, you've got the floor. Prince, if you can make it a minute, I would love it. Prince,
I've been here since, and you didn't allow me to say things.
You've spoken, sir. First leg, you have spoken.
I've not spoken. I only point in something. I've not spoken.
I got about a minute. I got a minute. If you can do a minute, that's fine.
Yes, I'm fine with a minute. Just quick one to round up. Foreign direct investment. I was in Lagos last week, and I was really sad. The 2 toll gates were not working. Those were investment of people. Foreigners, I was with a foreigner, and he asked me, why are they not working? I couldn't look at his face. For me, if that is happening in Nigeria, everybody will be scared of bringing his investment in terms of infrastructure. That's why we have more of portfolio investment, because you don't want to wake up one day, our citizens say that because it's our money, because this thing was done for us, we cannot pay again. Meanwhile, when we go other countries, we use these facilities. MM2 in Lagos, the same thing, hotel opposite it, been there for donkey years. In Nigeria, trying to invest, but yet it's been sabotaged. Just to make it clear that sometimes these things we think people don't see, but they see them. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that time, sir. Appreciate you helping me with the time. Really do. All right, guys, we have to pull it to an end. We've had about nearly 3 hours here. We've got about 2 minutes to 3 hours. So let me just say my thanks to you all for tuning in to listen to us this weekend, as usual, where we talk about money, the economy, and, of course, personal finance. 3 great topics. Like I said, we will run out of time talking even just about one topic. We've tried our best to talk about the budget, the Naira exchange rate, and, of course, the Dangote issues. I think you have left here or will leave here better informed as to what's going on and how you can also then take or manage your funds going forward. Let me just close by saying that when there is uncertainty, the market suffers. Uncertainty comes from policies being implemented and the people knowing that whatever the government says, that's what's going to happen. So there's a trust deficit before there's a money deficit. I've got to buy back that trust deficit rather quickly, so that when we then say things are going to happen, the people sort of tie in and agree with us. In no way should we have a budget that says we're going to buy a yacht, a luxury vessel, in the same budget where you have only 5 billion and 0 billion going to health. It speaks bad of the administration. It speaks that their priorities are elsewhere, that they are spending money at will without knowledge of how this should happen. They can do better, and they should do better. On that note, guys, do get my book, Let's Talk About Your Money. It's on Amazon. It will bless you. Let me let you all go. Have a great Monday. Olumide, special thanks to you for always saying yes to us. I do appreciate you, sir. Thank you so much. All right, guys, do have a great weekend and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, and bye.